Right, thank you. I'd like to welcome everybody to the meeting of the Water Quality Control Commission. This is December 10th, 2024. I'm Bruce Thompson. I'm the chair. Our first item on the agenda is roll call. So, Ms. Jones, if you call a roll.
Yes, I will. Good morning. Commissioner Brankert, are you present?
Present.
Commissioner Candelaria? Don't see him. Commissioner Dominguez?
Present.
Commissioner Fry?
Present.
Commissioner Gilliam?
McWilliams?
Commissioner McWilliams?
Yes, I'm here.
Commissioner Moender? Commissioner Paladugu?
Yes, I'm here.
Thank you. Commissioner Pat?
Here.
Commissioner Velasquez?
Present.
Commissioner Vigil?
Here.
Commissioner Zemlich?
Here.
Chair Thompson?
I'm here.
Chair, you have a quorum.
Okay.
Let the record note that Commissioner Gilliam is here.
Okay, thank you. So the second item on the agenda is approval of the agenda. I would entertain a motion to do so.
Mr. Chair, I would move to approve the agenda as presented.
Second. Okay, it's my understanding, since we have two commissioners attending via the video conference, that we need to do roll call votes. Is that true? I think we should. So, Ms. Jones, if you call the roll.
To approve the agenda. Commissioner Brankert, you have a vote?
Yes.
Thank you. Commissioner Dominguez?
Yes.
Commissioner Fry?
Yes.
Commissioner Gilliam?
Yes.
Commissioner McWilliams?
Yes.
Thank you. Commissioner Paladugu?
I was not present for that meeting. Is it okay for me to vote for the minutes?
This is to approve the agenda.
Oh, agenda, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry.
Commissioner Patton?
Yes.
Commissioner Velasquez?
Yes.
Commissioner Vigil?
Yes.
Commissioner Zemlich?
Yes.
And Chair Thompson?
Yes.
The motion passes.
Thank you. The next thing on the agenda is the approval of the minutes for our September 10th meeting. I assume everybody's had a chance to look at them. And if so, I'd entertain a motion to approve.
Move to accept the minutes as presented. Second.
Any comments? Discussion? Ms. Jones, please call the roll.
I will. Thank you. Commissioner Brankert, how do you vote?
Yes.
Commissioner Dominguez?
Yes.
Commissioner Fry?
Yes.
Commissioner Gilliam? Commissioner McWilliams?
Yes.
Thank you. Commissioner Paladugu?
So just for that clarification again, now this is for the minutes, right? So I was not present for that meeting that the minutes are being voted for.
So you'll abstain. Okay, thank you. Commissioner
Thank you.
Patton?
Yes.
Chair Thompson?
Yes.
Commissioner Velasquez?
Abstain. I was not present.
Commissioner Vigil?
Yes.
Commissioner Zemlich?
Yes.
Thank you, Chair. The motion passes.
Okay, thank you. The next agenda item is public comment. But before we do public comment, we have a new member, Ms. Gilliam. You would introduce yourself and just a minute or two, say who you are and what you're doing, who you represent.
Good morning, everyone. Buenos dias. My name is Danielle Gilliam. I am the Deputy Cabinet Secretary of Operations for the Environment Department, and it is my understanding that I am a one-time participant on behalf of Secretary Kenny.
Okay. Great. Ms. Jones, has anyone asked to make public comment?
I have not received any notification of someone making public comment, general public comment at this point in the meeting.
Okay. And I'd like to remind anybody that's in the audience or watching remotely that this is an opportunity to make general comments to the commission. We will have an opportunity to speak to the petition to nominate surface waters as special trout waters. That will be a separate hearing, which will begin in a few minutes. So if there's no one that wants to make public comment, we'll proceed to agenda item number 5, which is a petition to amend 20.6.4.126 and 20.6.4.141 NMAC to establish a segment-specific temperature criteria for some waters up in the Rio Grande watershed. So this is a petition to set a public hearing. I believe that Ms. Orth has agreed to be the hearing officer in this.
If you'll have.
Be delighted.
Mr. Chair, just to make sure I'm following the agenda, did we flip order of the agenda items? I had in the copy I received, agenda item 5 is nomination of vice chair.
I downloaded this, guess, before we added that. Thank you very much. Yeah, should we proceed with the 24-65, the petition, or do you want to go to nominate a vice chair? Let's go ahead and proceed with this petition to hold a public hearing. It'll be out of order, but I don't think that's a problem. So again, I'm looking for a motion to have a hearing on in the matter of amending 20.6.4.126, 20.6.4.141, which is establishing a stream-specific temperature criteria. Commissioner,
Are we going to have somebody present? We normally have somebody to present it, the petitioner, present the petition.
thank you. That would be great. So is there anyone here from Triad? Thank you. Thank you. Could you please introduce yourselves?
Oh, thank you. Hopefully that's better. Again, my name is Maureen Dolan. I am counsel for petitioner Los Alamos National Lab. We are, I represent Triad National Security LLC. Online with me is Maxine McReynolds, and excuse me, I didn't mention Triad National Security LLC is the management and operating contractor for Los Alamos National Lab, and making it more complicated even than it is already. With me is Stephen Yoakum for the Los Alamos field office of NNSA, and he'll introduce himself.
Yes, good morning, Chair Thompson, commissioners. My name is Stephen Yoakum, and I'm here to represent the National Nuclear Security Administration, Los Alamos field office in this matter. Maureen Dolan, she's done that already. We'll make the principal request for hearing by petitioners. Before that, I'd like to provide some background on who the petitioners are. For the record here, NNSA is a semi-autonomous agency within the Department of Energy that is responsible for enhancing national security through the military application of nuclear science, NNSA endeavors to maintain and enhance security, effectiveness, and safety of the United States weapons stockpile, and works to reduce global dangers from weapons of mass destruction, among other missions. Triad National Security, Triad, is a Delaware limited liability company or authorized to do business in New Mexico. Triad consists of 3 nonprofit entities: Battelle Memorial Institute, University of California, and the Texas A&M University System. Triad manages and operates the Los Alamos National Lab, LANL, on behalf of NNSA Los Alamos Field Office. Situated on the Pajarito Plateau, the lab consists of over 900 facilities and 13 nuclear facilities. It employs over 1,600 people and shares boundaries with the Pueblo de San Ildefonso, Sandoval, and Santa Fe counties, the National Park Service, and U.S. Forest Service lands. Triad and the NNSA Los Alamos Field Office are co-permittees on the National Pollutant Discharge Elimination System Permit, NPDES, number NM 00-28355, issued by EPA, for discharges to surface water to 11 outfalls at the LANL site. This permit includes requirements contained in 20.6.4 NMAC. It is our intent to amend 2 subsections of this part to establish a segment-specific temperature criterion for a particular assessment unit located solely on the LANL site. As co-petitioner and the Los Alamos Field Office, who fully supports a request for a hearing, as will be presented by Ms. Dolan, and will now yield the remaining time to her. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Yocum. And thank you again, Chair and Commission. WQCC 24-65R is a third-party petition for rulemaking, and petitioners respectfully request a hearing on our proposed amendments to 20.6.4.126 and 20.6.4.141 NMAC to establish a segment-specific temperature criteria for the westernmost portion of the Upper Sandia Canyon Assessment Unit. Whether the designated use NMED established in 2005 and later amended in 2010 are in fact reflective of the existing use in Upper Sandia Canyon has been in question since at least 2018. The central analysis petitioners rely upon, the use attainability analysis, or UAA, has been in process for nearly 5 years now. As supported by our final UAA report, petitioners propose, as Mr. Yocum described, to divide the Upper Sandia Canyon Assessment Unit into 2 segments, with the downstream portion retaining the current designated use and temperature criteria, and amending the designated use for the upstream westernmost portion to cool water aquatic life use, with an added 63 criterion of 25 degrees Celsius. As petitioners can demonstrate at hearing, the proposed amendment to New Mexico's water quality standards would more accurately reflect the existing uses in Upper Sandia Canyon. It would have discrete applicability within the stream segments on LANL property and it would protect water quality in the segments of Upper Sandia Canyon as well as downstream. Just a couple of notes on key legal authorities. Both New Mexico Water Quality Act and WQCC rulemaking procedures allow for third-party rulemaking petitions. 20.1.6.200A NMAC pre-hearing procedures for a petition for regulatory change states, quote, any person may file a petition to amend any regulation within the jurisdiction of the Commission. Under the New Mexico Water Quality Act, the Commission is required to adopt water quality standards for surface and groundwaters in the state of New Mexico based on, quote, credible scientific data and other evidence, including designated uses of the waters and the water quality criteria necessary to protect such uses. WQCC, quote, may remove a designated use that is not an existing use if a use attainability analysis demonstrates that attaining the use is not feasible because of a factor listed in 40 CFR 131.10G. And here, the NMED work approved work plan identifies factor 131.10G1, quote, naturally occurring pollution concentrations prevent attainment of use as the basis of the UAA inquiry. As Mr. Yoakum mentioned, the Upper Sandia Canyon Assessment Unit is wholly located within boundaries of Los Alamos National Lab. This segment is perennial and effluent dependent. The source of most of the flow is the lab's NPDES outfall 001, which discharges cooling water, treated sanitary wastewater effluent, recycled sanitary effluent, treated cooling tower blowdown. If not for this industrial wastewater discharge, the Upper Sandia Canyon Assessment Unit would be ephemeral. In warmer months, land cools this water before discharging it. In 2005, WQCC designated Upper Sandia Canyon for cold water aquatic life use with a segment-specific temperature criterion of 24 degrees Celsius, and later eliminated the segment-specific criterion and replaced it with general criteria for cold water aquatic life use. So that is a 63 of 20 degrees Celsius and a Tmax of 24 degrees Celsius. The impetus for LANOL's use attainability analysis was really the NMED integrated report has listed Upper Sandia Canyon AU as impaired for temperature since at least 2018. The IR assigns the segment to category 5/5B. An impairment in this category suggests a use attainability analysis may be necessary to determine whether the designated use is appropriate. Appendix A of the IR states, quote, AUs are listed in this category when it is possible that water quality standards are not being met because one or more current designated use is inappropriate. After a review of water quality standard is conducted, a use attainability analysis, or UAA, will be developed and submitted to US EPA for consideration, end quote. UAAs are described in both federal and state water regulations as water quality regulations as structured scientific assessments and of factors affecting attainment of use. For UAAs conducted by third parties, as here, New Mexico regulations require development of a work plan and approval by NMED. NMED approved petitioner's work plan to conduct a UAA in the spring of 2020 to determine, quote, if natural thermal conditions are preventing the attainment of cold water aquatic life use in the perennial reach of the Sandia Canyon Assessment Unit. The final UAA report examined air and water temperature data, flow data, and modeling results over time and at locations throughout the segment. It analyzed the presence of threatened or endangered species and critical habitat and conducted aquatic life surveys and additional designated use criteria, including dissolved oxygen and pH data. As documented in that report and as petitioner's technical witnesses can testify, cold water aquatic life temperature criteria are not attainable throughout the entire segment as described in 20.6.4.126 NMAC. The final UAA thus recommended dividing the current Upper Sandia Canyon AU into two assessment units. An upper unit, the western portion of the reach, which would be assigned a cool water aquatic life use designation with an additional protective 25 degrees Celsius 63 criterion, and a lower AU, the eastern portion of the reach, with no change to the ALU designation and associated criteria. As the report shows, this proposal reflects the highest attainable use, and it would not negatively impact downstream segments and would continue to be fully protective of aquatic life. So the NMED approved work plan set out substantive requirements, such as specific lines of evidence and areas of analysis, and also procedural requirements for stakeholder outreach, public engagement, and consultation with federal and state regulatory entities. The first report was completed in late 2021 with public comment period from fall of 2021 to early 2022. And in 2022, petitioners received combined public comments from Communities for Clean Water, Amigos Bravos, Tewa Women United, New Mexico Acequia Association, Concerned Citizens for Nuclear Safety, Breath of My Heart Birthplace, and Partnership for Earth Spirituality. Petitioners also received comments from EPA Region 6 and NMED. And from spring of 2022 through fall of 2023, petitioners revised the UAA and modified its recommended amendments to New Mexico's water quality standards based on these comments and on ongoing discussion with NMED technical staff. Petitioners have also presented the final UAA at several stakeholder meetings, including at Accord Pueblos Technical Exchange meetings and the East Jemez Resource Council meetings. A second public comment ran from May 13 to June 12th of this year, and petitioners received no comments. So again, Chair and Chair Thompson and Commission, thanks for your time this morning. Just to summarize, because the UAA shows that a cold water ALU is not attainable throughout the entire segment, petitioners propose amending 20.6.4.126 and 20.6.4.141 NMAC to divide the Upper Sandia Canyon Assessment Unit and set new segment-specific temperature criteria in the westernmost portion. We understand NMED doesn't object to these proposed changes and would be available for a hearing this spring. I'm happy to discuss the timing of a possible hearing and take your questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Questions, comments from the commission? Mr. Brinkard.
We have another one of these hearings coming up in January. I believe they've allotted 2 days for that hearing. Is that appropriate for this hearing?
Out of an abundance of caution, we could do 2, although I expect that this would be a simpler technical case and perhaps 1 might suffice.
Do you have any dates in line?
We had been thinking of April, but I think that's a little bit soon given notice requirements at this point. And so we'd be perhaps looking at May.
Thank you.
Other questions or comments? Commissioner Dominguez.
Mr. Chair, I would make a motion that we accept the petition and allow the chair to schedule the date and coordinate a hearing officer as schedules allow.
Okay. I would second that motion.
Okay, moved and seconded. Further comments, questions? You ready to vote? Commissioner Brinkard.
Mr. Chair, we had some problems with the first one of these petitions. And so in terms of notice, so since we have a third-party petitioner rather than the Environment Department, we would encourage you to work with our staff on getting the notice done. There's a whole series of things boxes need to be checked off. So, and timing, of course.
Thank you, Commissioner Brinkard. Yes, we've learned from that experience, I hope, and that's partly why I'm suggesting later than April. If you move back with the New Mexico Register publication dates, we'd be looking at having to have notice ready by mid-January in order to make a 60-day in advance timing.
Okay. You're reaching for your microphone. I thought perhaps. All right, are we ready to vote? Okay, Ms. Jones, would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Brankard, how do you
Yes.
vote? And Commissioner Dominguez,
Yes.
Commissioner Fry,
Yes.
Commissioner Gilliam,
Yes.
Commissioner McWilliams,
Yes.
Commissioner Paladugu,
Yes.
thank you. Commissioner Patton,
Yes.
Commissioner Velasquez,
Yes.
Commissioner Vehil,
Yes.
Commissioner Zemlik,
Yes.
Chair Thompson.
Yes.
Chair, the motion passes.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. Mr. Yoakum and Ms. Dolan. So we're going to backtrack now. Again, I apologize. I have the wrong agenda, an earlier agenda. I think everyone on the commission is aware that Commissioner Armstrong, who was with the NMED, has been promoted internally. He's now a division director, I believe, and can no longer feels that he should no longer serve on the commission because there's some potential conflicts. So we need a new vice chair, and at this point, I would entertain nominations for a new vice chair of the Water Quality Control Commission. Commissioner Dominguez.
Mr. Chair, I would nominate Katie Zemlik as vice chair.
I think I'm entitled to second that because I have a great deal of respect for Katie. And so with that, I told her if she didn't accept it, I would withdraw my approval of her dissertation. So she accepts it.
Yes, thank you. I accept.
We need to vote, I think. Ms. Jones?
Okay, to accept Commissioner Zemlik as the new vice chair. Commissioner Brankard, how do you vote?
Yes.
And Commissioner Dominguez.
Yes.
Commissioner Fry.
Yes.
Commissioner Gilliam.
Yes.
Commissioner McWilliams.
Yes.
Commissioner Paladugu.
Yes.
Commissioner Patton.
Yes.
Chair Thompson.
Yes.
Commissioner Velasquez.
Yes.
Commissioner Vehil.
Yes.
Commissioner Zemlik.
Yes.
Congratulations.
Congratulations. Well, I'm going to leave now. Okay, so moving right along, we're going to go into consideration of WQCC 24-65R. It's a petition to amend. I'm sorry. It's the wrong one. Have to turn a page. It's WQCC 24-46, petition to nominate surface waters designated as special trout waters or wild and scenic rivers located within Wilderness Park Monument or Refuge as outstanding natural resource waters. And so this is scheduled for a hearing. And I think at this point, I can turn it over to the hearing officer. Is that correct? Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My name is Felicia Orth, the hearing officer appointed by the commission to conduct a hearing in this matter. And it was docketed as WQCC 2446. I love these hearings, the ONRW hearing. Again, that's Outstanding National Resource Water, a designation reserved for the most extraordinary and pristine stretches of streams around the state. We have the petitioner, which is the New Mexico Environment Department, the Surface Water Bureau. We have Amigos Bravos, and I'll ask you actually for appearances, and we have Mr. Maxwell. I believe I see Mr. Maxwell on the platform. There he is. These were the folks who entered appearances. We'll hear statements from them. There are two witnesses noticed up. Mr. Baca on behalf of the department and Mr. Roper on behalf of Amigos Bravos and Trout Unlimited. Apart from statements by the parties. I will also invite non-technical public comment when we have completed the technical party statements. There is one wrinkle there. I had in a pre-hearing order noted that we would break into the technical case as necessary to take public comment at 1 p.m. today and at 5 p.m. today, and if necessary at 9 and 1 tomorrow. I don't believe any of that is going to be necessary. We had one person reach out to offer to reserve a spot at the 5 o'clock public comment window this afternoon. Pam is in touch with her to say that we want to take her public comment earlier. I do not believe we're going to make it to the end of the day because the parties are, so far as I can tell, generally supportive, and there isn't a lot of opposition here. There may be some, but it did not turn out to be a contentious matter. So if any party or anyone in this room or on the platform is aware that someone would like to offer public comment, I'm going to be asking for that as soon as I can and not waiting until 1 and 5. So let's have appearances first. Ms. Weatherly.
Good morning, Madam Hearing Officer, Chair Thompson, and members of the Commission. Crystal Weatherly for the New Mexico Environment Department.
Thank you, Ms. Fox. Oh, there you are.
Good morning. Excuse me, Madam Hearing Officer, Chair Thompson, members of the Commission. My name is Tanis Fox. I'm a lawyer with Western Environmental Law Center, and I'm here today representing Amigos Bravos and Trout Unlimited.
Thank you. And Mr. Maxwell on the platform.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Nicholas Ray Maxwell. I'm one of the people of Southeast New Mexico in Lee County. Thank you for having the public today.
Thank you, Mr. Maxwell. So the hearing will be conducted under the Water Quality Act and the Commission's rulemaking procedures, 20.1.6 of the New Mexico Administrative Code. Testimony is taken under oath and subject to cross-examination. Let's start with opening statements. Ms. Weatherly.
Good morning again. Crystal Weatherly, again, here for the New Mexico Environment Department. It is a privilege to be here today to represent the Surface Water Quality Bureau of the Water Protection Division of the New Mexico Environment Department. With me today to present technical testimony on behalf of the department is Michael Baca. Mr. Baca is the Water Quality Standards Coordinator for the Surface Water Quality Bureau. Also with me today from the department are Shelley Lemon, Surface Water Quality Bureau Chief, and Lynette Guevara, Program Manager for the Monitoring, Assessment, and Standards section of the Surface Water Quality Bureau. Ms. Lemon and Ms. Guevara are not here to present technical testimony, but are here today to assist in answering any questions that may go beyond the expertise of Mr. Baca or as rebuttal witnesses if necessary, though not expected. The department is before you today to present technical testimony in support of bestowing the highest protection of water quality under the state's anti-degradation policy for surface waters that are designated as special trout waters or wild and scenic rivers or located within a wilderness, park, monument, or refuge. As articulated in the nomination, which is included as NMED Exhibit 4, this proposed rule is the culmination of hard work by the department and years of collaboration with third parties to identify and nominate stream segments that meet ONRW eligibility requirements under 20.6.4.9 in MAC. The Water Quality Control Commission is authorized under the New Mexico Water Quality Act to adopt and amend water quality standards for surface waters of the state based on credible scientific data and other evidence. The adoption of amendments to the state's water quality standards must comply with the requirements of the Water Quality Act, the State Rules Act, the Small Business Regulatory Relief Act, and the Commission's rulemaking procedures. As Mr. Baca will testify, the department has met all procedural requirements for this nomination and comes to you with the extensive support in this effort to protect these precious waters in our state. Lastly, on November 20th, the department filed a notice of intent to present technical testimony and included 19 exhibits. Prior to today's hearing, I conferred with counsel for Amigos Bravos and Trout Unlimited, and we mutually stipulate for the entry of all NMED, Amigos Bravos, and Trout Unlimited exhibits into the record. As such, I'd like to take this moment to move for the admission of all exhibits by NMED and Amigos Bravos and Trout Unlimited into the record.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Weatherly. Did you also check with Mr. Maxwell?
I did not.
All right. Mr. Maxwell, do you have any objection to the admission of exhibits 1 through 19?
I do. I would like to hear the testimony and have the foundation laid first.
Mr. Baca's testimony.
Yes.
All right. Do you have objection to the other exhibits?
As well for the other witness that will be testifying, I do.
So the other witnesses are not expected to testify, Ms. Lemon and Ms. Guevara, unless they're required to offer rebuttal.
Okay, that's my misunderstanding. I thought you were also referring to the other party too.
No, I wasn't.
Okay.
No, because it hasn't been offered yet, right? Yeah. No, we're just talking about ED's exhibits 1 through 19. Mr. Baca's testimony is exhibit 1. We can certainly wait till he's under oath to admit that. Can I admit the others without your objection?
I'll withhold my objection on the others.
All right. Thank you. So ED exhibits 2 through 19 are admitted, and we'll wait till Mr. Baca is under oath to get one in.
Thank you, Madam Hearing Officer.
All right. Is that the end of your closing?
It is the end of my, that is the end of my opening statement. Thank you.
Right, thank you. Would you like to reserve, Ms. Fox, or go now? All right.
I have a very brief opening. Commissioners, good morning again, Madam Hearing Officer and Commissioners. I'm Tanis Fox with Western Environmental Law Center. I represent Amigos Bravos and Trout Unlimited in this proceeding. Amigos Bravos is a nonprofit water conservation organization dedicated to protecting and restoring the waters of New Mexico. Amigos Bravos has participated in each of the 5 ONRW petitions that have come before this commission, including having petitioned the commission to designate the state's very first ONRW, the Rio Santa Barbara. Trout Unlimited is a national nonprofit organization dedicated to caring for and recovering rivers and streams to protect wild and native trout. This is only the 6th ONRW petition that has come before the commission since the commission first passed ONRW regulations almost 20 years ago in 2005. NMED's petition nominates waters referred to as Criteria 1 waters, identified in 20.6.4b1 NMAC. These waters are eligible for ONRW status by virtue of being located within lands that already have a special status, such as a national park or wildlife refuge, or by virtue of having special status themselves, such as being designated as a special trout water. The Federal Clean Water Act regulations at 40 CFR 131.12A3, which are referenced in Mr. Baca's testimony, recognize that waters such as these may well constitute an outstanding national resource that should be protected. This commission in 2005 adopted the federal approach and recognized that these Criteria 1 waters are inherently high-value waters. Today, you will hear testimony from Dan Roper, New Mexico Program Lead for Trout Unlimited. Amigos Bravos and Trout Unlimited strongly support the entirety of NMED's petition, and we commend the department's hard work bringing this petition before you. Mr. Roper's written testimony focuses on nominated waters that are designated as special trout waters. As Mr. Roper puts it, Trout Unlimited members' knowledge of New Mexico trout streams is unrivaled. There isn't a trout stream in New Mexico their members don't know. Mr. Roper's testimony brings these streams to life, whether he's talking about our state's most popular fishing waters, like the Rio Chama, the Pecos, the Guadalupe, or the more remote tributaries, like the San Cristobal or Columbine. Trout Unlimited's members have a deep appreciation why each of the special trout waters nominated deserve the highest water quality protection the state can provide. Indeed, included in the nominated streams are a number that are home to New Mexico's state fish, the Rio Grande cutthroat trout. This fish's historic range is severely reduced, and they depend on clean water from nominated streams like the Nabor, Palo Ciento, and Tanques for its very survival. At bottom, ONRW designation complements and enhances these waters' status as special trout waters. We very much appreciate the Commission's time and attention today, and we look forward to presenting our testimony.
Thank you, Ms. Fox. Mr. Maxwell, would you like to say anything by way of an opening?
Thank you. I do not. I'm good.
All right, thank you. Ms. Wenderly, if you would introduce your first witness.
Good morning. With me today is Michael Baca.
Mr. Baca, do you swear or affirm to tell the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
Can you please state your name and occupation for the record?
It is Michael Baca. I am the Water Quality Standards Coordinator for the New Mexico Environment Department, Surface Water Quality Bureau.
How long have you been in that position?
I have been in this position for about a year, but I've been with the department coming on 20 years in February.
And did you file a resume in this matter as NMED Exhibit 2?
I did.
And did you file a written testimony in this matter as NMED Exhibit 1?
I have.
And do you adopt that written testimony here today?
I do.
Will you please provide a summary of that written testimony, beginning with ONRW designations and the state's anti-degradation policy?
Sure. Thank you. Madam Hearing Officer, Chair Thompson, and members of the Water Quality Control Commission, the department has nominated river and stream reaches as outstanding national resource waters, or ONRWs, under New Mexico standards for interstate and intrastate surface waters, codified at 20.6.4 NMAC, commonly referred to as water quality standards. The proposed amendments follow the provisions of Section 9 of the standards, allowing the Commission to designate waters as ONRWs. The Department limited the scope of the nominations to waters with an existing special designation, such as special trout waters, wild rivers, or waters located in a wilderness area or in a national or state park, monument, or wildlife refuge. This criterion recognizes that these waters are significant attributes of and inherently embody the characteristics of ONRWs. ONRWs possess exceptional recreational or ecological significance and are afforded protections to maintain and preserve their water quality. The standards require the Commission to determine that an ONRW designation is beneficial to the state and that the nominated water meets one or more of the qualifying criteria outlined by Section 9 of the standards in order to adopt the regulatory language to designate an ONRW. Under New Mexico's anti-degradation policy, ONRWs are classified as Tier 3 waters, where water quality cannot be lowered or degraded. This is the highest level of protection afforded under the anti-degradation policy. The statewide anti-degradation policy includes limited exceptions for temporary and short-term degradation. For the exceptions to apply, the Commission has to determine the activity or discharge is 1, necessary to accommodate public health or safety. 2, is in response to an emergency action. 3, is a pre-existing land use activity controlled by BMTs. 4, is related to a SECIA operation, maintenance, and repair. And 5, is the result of the restoration or maintenance of the chemical, physical, or biological integrity of the water. Future anthropogenic activities and discharges are allowed, but these require a demonstration that they will not cause degradation of the ONRW. Likewise, for point sources, the designation of an ONRW would not prohibit a permittee from applying for a new or increased discharge to an ONRW. The applicant must show that the discharge would not cause degradation of the water quality as established in baseline conditions or established existing uses.
Thank you. Can you please provide a summary of the ONRW nomination and petition requirements?
Sure. Madam Hearing Officer, Chair Thompson, members of the Commission. Under the Water Quality Act, the Commission's rulemaking rules at 20.1.6 NMAC and the water quality standards, anyone may petition the Commission to nominate a water for ONRW designation. Like any other standard or rulemaking adoption, ONRWs are designated through a public process that includes a public comment period and a public hearing before the Commission. The criteria for ONRW designation in New Mexico are set forth in 20.6.4 NMAC. Section 9 provides that surface waters of the state may be designated as an ONRW where the Commission determines that the designation is beneficial to the state of New Mexico and meets one of the 3 criteria listed in subsection B. In previous rulemakings, the Commission recognized the importance of water to areas with existing state or federal designations, making these eligible for ONRW designations. 20.6.4.9a NMAC lists the 6 elements that must be included in any petition to nominate waters as an ONRW. The elements include maps of the nominated surface waters, 2, statements and evidence to support the nomination. We must include existing water quality data, if any. Nomination must include a discussion of the activities that could degrade the water quality. We must include a discussion of the benefit and economic impact of the designation. And lastly, we must provide early public notice of the nomination and our intent to designate a water as an ONRW. In regards to the maps of the surface waters of the state, NMED provided Appendix A of the nomination, which has the geographical information system-based maps that NMED developed for the nominated waters. These maps provide the location and the upstream and downstream boundaries of the nominations. The Surface Water Quality Bureau's online mapper also provides the GIS mapping layers for the nominated waters and previously designated ONRWs. Excuse me. In regards to a written statement and evidence based on scientific principles, the department, in their nomination, the department nominated 46 waters totaling over 256 miles for designation. Of those, 36 met a single special designation criteria, with 3 as part of a designated wild and scenic river in the Rio Chama and Red River, 5 within national monuments, the Bandelier in Rio Grande del Norte, 3 within the Valle Caldera National Preserve, 1 within the Pecos National Historic Park, 9 are within the Columbine Hondo Wilderness Area, and 15 waters are designated as special trout waters. Additionally, 10 special trout waters meet 1 additional special designation criteria, eligibility criteria. Of these, 1 is in Bandelier National Monument, 2 are in Valle Caldera National Preserve, 1 is in Cimarron Canyon State Park, and 6 are in the Columbine Hondo Wilderness Area. Special trout waters make up the largest category of stream reaches nominated for ONRW designation, with 25 waters. Special trout waters are managed to achieve various goals, including to produce trophy-sized trout, improve conservation of native trout, or enhance the overall trout population, structure, and density. The second largest category of stream reaches are those within wilderness areas or designated wild rivers, with 18 waters nominated. The wild designation under the Federal Wild and Scenic Rivers Act is intended to protect the free-flowing character of a river. The statute lists recreational, ecological, and other similar values that are to be protected for the benefit and enjoyment of present and future generations. Similarly, the Wilderness Act lists ecological or other features of scientific, educational, scenic, or historical value as attributes of a wilderness area. In New Mexico, many wilderness areas are located in the remote, isolated, and primitive areas where headwater streams originate. Recognizing the importance of these areas, the protection of watersheds was cited as one of the purposes for which some of our wilderness areas were designated. Similarly, parks, monuments, and refuges and preserves are designated by legislative bodies because they possess natural features and values that are significant and beneficial on a local, state, or national level. Areas with existing special designations are managed to protect, preserve, or restore its natural conditions, including its surface waters that embody the recreational, ecological, cultural, historical, or other similar values that should be preserved and protected for future generations. These waters are a significant attribute because of the critical role they play in overall watershed health. This is especially true in New Mexico, an arid state, where surface waters are highly valued and often include the headwaters that feed downstream water supplies. In addition to providing habitat for numerous animals, these waters provide riparian and wetland plant communities that serve critical ecological functions. Designation of the nominated streams as ONRWs will enhance protection of these ecological attributes that support the varied recreational activities enjoyed by many. In addition to freshwater, the nominated streams provide New Mexicans fishing opportunities, places of solitude and relaxation, unique habitats for plants and animals, and reference sites to compare against impacted impacted ecosystems. These uses are sustainable, and the protection of water quality will ensure the long-term benefit of these waters to the state. In regards to water quality data, the department provided available water quality data for the nominated waters to establish baseline conditions and available data. Additionally, the department provided related Clean Water Act 303D, 305B impairment status in the nomination. NMED also included a discussion of activities that might contribute to water quality reduction within the nomination. Existing and potential activities that could reduce water quality in the nominated waters include, but are not limited to, climate change, wildfires, dams, hard rock mining, illegal waste disposal, and point source discharges. 4 of the nominated waters have existing point sources with individual National Pollutant Discharge Elimination System permits, or NPDES permits. 4 permits are for fish hatcheries, 1 for a wastewater treatment plant, and 1 for a closed mining facility. NMED also provided additional evidence to substantiate the designation within the nomination. The proposed ONRW designation is not expected to have detrimental economic impact on existing land use activities, as no new requirements will apply. Activities controlled by BMPs are allowed to continue in a designated ONRW watershed as long as no new water quality degradation occurs. Petitioners do not propose to alter the protection given to existing uses under the current regulations, but propose to maintain this protection. For example, grazing conducted in an ONRW watershed in accordance with a permit issued by the United States Forest Service is considered a pre-existing land use activity that will be allowed to continue. NMED developed the ONRW proposal to nominate streams in existing special designations that are part of a larger recreational or ecological management system. Areas with special designations provide many important benefits and values to New Mexico. The nominated waters are a source of abundant clean water essential for the survival of plants, animals, and humans. These areas provide important ecological services, including watershed resilience toward wildfire and drought, carbon storage, nutrient cycling, flood mitigation, fish and wildlife habitat, and biodiversity. These areas in the nominated waters also provide important and diverse recreational activities and contribute to scenic, spiritual, and cultural values of these areas that are very special to many New Mexicans. Adequate flow and water quality are essential to maintaining healthy populations of aquatic life, including fish, which in turn are sources of many economic, recreational, cultural, and spiritual values. Water is a critically important resource to our state. As private lands continue to be developed, public and other protected lands will grow in importance as sources of high-quality water runoff. Lastly, the department must provide an affidavit of publication of notice of the petition and public comments within the nomination. NMED published notice of the petition in the Santa Fe New Mexican and the Albuquerque Journal. Additionally, we sent a listserv email to approximately 1,900 subscribers and sent direct emails to federal, state, and tribal representatives and interested parties. At the same time, NMED engaged the community and provided outreach and education opportunities. This included a 30-day public comment period and a virtual public meeting that provided a presentation of the current nomination and the anticipated procedural steps for rulemaking. During the meeting, public participation opportunities were highlighted, and staff provided a live demonstration of how to navigate NMED's websites, find information, and participate in the rulemaking process. A summary of the public meeting was included in the nomination. NMED received significant interest and support for the nomination, with over 700 people and organizations providing comment. The majority of these comments, nearly 97%, were supportive of the ONRW nomination without change. The New Mexico Department of Game and Fish provided a comment letter and worked with the department to review and revise the nominated waters. We met to discuss concerns and specific requests to remove special trout waters. After reevaluating the special trout water nominations, we retained those that are also headwater streams, those that met additional 20.6.4.9B1 NMAC criteria, and those that had supportive public comment. In the end, NMED removed 3 nominations, 2 on the Rio Chama and 1 on the Red River.
Thank you, Mr. Baca. Can you please summarize the department's compliance with rulemaking procedural requirements, public notice, and stakeholder engagement for this matter?
Thank you. Sure. Madam Hearing Officer, Chair Thompson, esteemed members of the Commission. If the Commission grants a hearing for a petition for rulemaking, the petitioner must provide to the public notice of rulemaking in accordance with the State Rules Act, the Water Quality Act, the Water Quality Standards, and the Commission's rules for rulemaking. NMED complied with these requirements by providing public notice of rulemaking that included the subject, a summary, and the purpose of the proposed rule, the legal authority for the rule and its adoption, the technical basis for the proposed rule, and additionally, the public notice provided information regarding the governing laws of procedure, how to find technical information, and how to participate in the hearing, examine documents, and download information. NMED provided the public notice for the rulemaking hearing by publishing in the Albuquerque Journal, Santa Fe New Mexican, and the New Mexico Register. Additionally, the department assisted the Commission Administrator with completing notification requirements and providing rulemaking information to the public by posting it on the Commission's and Department's websites, posting it on the New Mexico Sunshine Portal, making it available at NMED's district and field offices, sending it by email to the Surface Water Quality Bureau's main and NPDES permittee listservs, sending it by email to persons who have participated in the rulemaking, and providing it to the New Mexico Legislative Council. Additionally, the department provided notice of the hearing to tribal representatives, potentially affected federal and state agencies, the Small Business Regulatory Advisory Council, and the regulated community regarding the nominations and rulemaking hearing for ONRW designations. NMED attached the public notices and nomination to each email, provided links to additional information, and invited questions, concerns, and requests for further engagement. At the request of the East Hammons Resource Council, the department provided a hybrid presentation in person and online that was well received with no negative feedback or concerns raised.
Thank you, Mr. Baca. Is there anything else that you would like to add?
Yes, Madam Hearing Officer, Chair Thompson, members of the Water Quality Control Commission, New Mexico's water and natural resources are under enormous strain, and we need a strategy to protect and maintain these in a sustainable and beneficial way. ONRW designation provides the tools to protect and improve water quality for the benefit of present and future generations and wildlife. The protection of these waters will help maintain a clean water supply for human uses, agricultural uses, and wildlife habitat within these areas, as well as downstream uses by municipal water supply for domestic and industrial uses, domestic wells, agriculture, livestock watering, and recreational interests. The protection of these waters will also help to maintain healthy, functioning ecosystems, preserve habitat, support biodiversity, and protect endangered and threatened species. 3, the protection of these waters will help maintain the recreational benefits in these areas and the designated uses of the waters under the Commission's water quality standards at 20.6.4 NMAC.
Thank you, Mr. On behalf of the department, I would like to thank the hearing officer, the chair, and members of the commission for your time and attention, and request that the commission deliberate on the proposed rule today. Following today's hearing, the department will file with the commission a revised and updated proposed statement of reasons and concise explanatory statement, along with the NMAC transmittal form that State Records Center and Archives requires. Both of these documents will need the signature of the commission chair. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Weatherly and Mr. Baca. Is there any objection at this point to admitting NMED Exhibit 1? No? All right, thank you. Exhibit 1 is admitted. Ms. Fox, do you have questions of Mr. Baca? Mr. Maxwell, do you have questions of Mr. Baca?
I do. Hello, Mr. Baca. My name is Nicholas Maxwell. As I understand, this is not the first time the department has petitioned the commission for ONRW designations, correct?
That is correct.
And during this petition, approximately 245 miles of surface water is being proposed for these designations, correct?
Approximately correct.
Would you describe the protections offered by the ONRW designation as requiring additional steps, discharge permittees to obtain discharge permits?
No, I would not.
You mentioned that a wastewater treatment facility with an NPDES permit would be impacted by this ONRW designation. Is that correct?
I mentioned that there was an NPDES permittee upstream of the nomination. I did not think I stated that it would be impacted.
Did you mention anything about a wastewater treatment facility today during your testimony?
Yes, I did.
Could you remind us specifically what that was testimony about?
It was discussion of activities that might contribute to water quality reduction.
Could you give me the name of that facility and the county it's located?
Yes, I believe that is in the nomination in Exhibit 4. Table 3, is it? Try to find that listed.
Take your time. Thanks.
Within Table 3 of Exhibit 4, we'll find that the Village of Pecos wastewater treatment plant is listed there as one of the point sources.
Okay. And same 2 questions for the closed mining facility, please. The name of the facility and the county it's located.
That is also located in Table 3 that says Chevron Mining Inc. West of Mine on the Red River Wild and Scenic Stretch. That river also has has another NPDES permit listed there within that table.
Do I understand correctly that permit is owned by Chevron? It's held by Chevron?
I'm not too sure who owns that, but the name listed on that permit is Chevron Mining Inc.
Do you know if the department made any attempt to provide notice of this public hearing to the Village of Pecos or this entity that holds the permit?
Yes, we did.
Are you aware of any of these ONRW designations being made in the southeast New Mexico region, specifically in Lee County, Eddy County, or Chavez counties?
No, I'm not aware of any ONRW designations within those counties.
And despite that, has the department made any determination if there would be economic impact to this region that does not have these designations as a result of the designations elsewhere?
Can you rephrase that question? I don't quite understand what the question was.
Referring to the region of Lee, Eddy, and Chavez County and relating it to these designations being made, has the department made any determination if there'd be an economic impact to this region?
No, we have not.
That's all the questions I have today. Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you, Mr. Maxwell. Commissioners, can I start with you, Commissioner Behan? You have questions of Mr. Baca?
No, I did not.
All right. Questions? No. All right. Mr. Brinker.
Two things. And I think I've raised this, I have a vague recollection I raised this in one of the prior ONRW hearings. When you have a stream segment and you have at least two that come from another state, does the department notify the other states, like Colorado Department of Health and Environment, of what the department is planning on?
We did not directly notify Colorado of our intent to designate these. We do work with Colorado quite often on other water quality standards issues, and ONRWs is one of the topics that we definitely talk about, but we have not coordinated how the implementation would work.
You did briefly totally switching gears, you did briefly discuss comments raised by the Department of Game and Fish Director Storm, which were rather extensive. You seem to have a lot of issues with these designations. Did you all sort of reach an amicable agreement in the end?
Yes, we did. This was, they submitted their comment letter during the July early notice of the petition. And so we had a period of time there to work with them before we came before the commission to request the hearing. So the result of us working with the Department of Game and Fish, we reevaluated all the special trout water nominations and ended up removing three segments or three stretches of waters that we were that we had discussed with the Department of Game and Fish as removing due to their concerns.
Okay, and maybe I misheard, but I thought maybe you said earlier in your testimony that the remaining special trout water in the designation, which I guess would be the regulations number 11, also met other criteria?
Yes, so Commissioner Brinkert, members of the commission. So we met with the Department of Game and Fish. We reevaluated the special trout water nominations based on some of the concerns raised. And we developed a criteria to address those concerns. And so some of those were addressed by looking at retaining headwater streams. So those are some of the special trout waters that also have, there are either headwater streams that either have an additional special designation, so they're special trout water, plus they're within a wilderness area, park, or preserve. Or the third criteria to keep special trout waters was we had public comment in direct support for some of the waters.
But the rule still says the following state special trout water. So it seems to indicate that that's, you've written the rule this time to specifically name what criteria these waters fall under, which you haven't done in the past. You just listed the waters. this time you specifically say special trout waters. Listen, I guess my question is, if the Department of Game and Fish suddenly decides one of these segments is no longer a special trout water, does that impact this rule?
We discussed this and we didn't think that it would eliminate the ONRW designation, that the ONRW designation would remain.
Thank you.
Commissioner Patton?
Yes, thank you. So I guess I have some general questions similar to what Commissioner Brankard was touching on. And then I have a couple questions about the specific language related to special trout waters. So you just testified that the designation of a special trout water would not, or if the State Game Commission were to change their mind or adopt a new rule related to one of these designations as a special trout water, if it was no longer needed, it would not change this rule. Is that correct?
Chair Thompson, Commissioner Patton, and members of the commission, that is correct. I believe the ONRW designation would remain.
Okay. And if the State Game Commission chose to adopt a new special trout water in an area, would it create any obligation for this commission to then adopt that new designation?
Member Patton, I don't believe it would create the obligation to designate ONRWs, but it would create an eligibility requirement that river might, then be eligible under Section 9B1 to be designated as an ONRW or nominated under that criteria.
Okay. And then with a special trout water designation actually incorporated into this rule now, the specific language, would it create any obligations for the State Game Commission to consider a continuing planning process or any of the other processes that the Environment Department undergoes on a regular basis for water quality regulation?
Commissioner Patton, members of the commission, I don't believe that it would require an additional requirement on the commission, on the Game Commission. I might look to my more experienced colleagues to see if they had anything or any more knowledge than I do on that.
Will you bring Ms. Shelley Lemon to address this question?
Thank you. Ms. Lemon, do you swear or affirm to tell the truth?
I do.
Please go ahead.
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Patton, it does not, the designation of an ONRW gives anti-degradation provisions, the highest level of anti-degradation provisions for water quality. So that's where these ONRW designations are important. That highest level of protections means that the water quality cannot be degraded from the baseline water quality. So that's what the designations provide to these waters.
Okay. So it seems like the special trout water designation or term has been a State Game Commission rule type jurisdiction or whatever you want to call it. Now it's being formally adopted, potentially, depending on the commission votes, into this rule. So we're kind of conflating the two. I just want to make sure that the State Game Commission rulemaking process would be separate still.
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Patton, I believe that to be true. In our water quality standards in 20.6.4, one of the eligibility criteria is the status of a special trout water. It does not mean that we are designating the waters as special trout waters. We are using that to provide anti-degradation provisions for water quality.
Okay, I've got a couple more specific questions, I think, for Mr. Baca. Thanks. Okay, so in a few cases under, it would be subparagraph 11, specific breaches, you use language that mirrors state game commission rule. Say, for example, 11B, it says Rio Chama from Heron Reservoir outlet to Cottonwood Flats. In other cases, you use a more generic reach designation, say for Tongass or Cañada Tio Grande. Both Cañada Tio Grande and Tongass under State Game Commission rule have a more specific language related to them. Is there a reason that you use specific language for some but not for others?
Yes, Chair Thompson, Commissioner Patton, and other members of the Water Quality Control Commission. I believe that was just to signify that it would maybe be a smaller stretch of the reach. It looks, so let me see. Yeah, for that specific example you provided with the Rio de los Pinos, that was to identify the upstream and downstream boundary, maybe Service Road 87A to private land, 2.5 miles upstream. And then with the Tongass Creek, if we look at that map, I believe that would be the entirety of the Tongass Creek from that point up to the headwaters, I believe.
Okay. And the reason I ask is if special trout water designation is the sole criteria, the State Game Commission rule does not include the whole creek. And so that would be for Tongass, Cañada Tio Grande, and the Rio Saboya designation under 11E.
Yeah, I believe that it was just signifying the entirety of Tongass Creek within the specially designated area. So, well, it should match. So when we did the GIS mapping, we used the Department of Game and Fish's GIS layers to create our own maps, our GIS maps. So we should have used what was published or what was used by the Department of Game and Fish to create our maps for special trout waters. So they should align with what is published by the Department of Game and Fish.
Okay, but what we're using is State Game Commission rules designation of the special trout water, which would be different, could potentially be different than the map. Because that would be published in the New Mexico Administrative Code.
The maps of the special trout waters?
Not maps, the verbal description of a special trout water.
Ms. Guevara would like to address this question.
Ms. Guevara, if you would state your first and last name.
Lynette Guevara.
Thank you. Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth?
Yes.
Thank you.
I came up to help Mike out on this one. Looking at the maps, let me look at this for a second. So we looked at this pretty carefully, and can you tell us what the wording was for Tongass? Because I believe that's, like Mike said, the coverage that we had received from Game and Fish. And this wasn't brought to our attention when we had a series of conversations with Game and Fish about the listings or the nominations, excuse me.
So in reviewing the petition, I looked up, this is State Game Commission Rule 1931-4. It's the hunting and fishing rule, our fisheries rule. For example, Tongass, it says It is special trout water from Forest Service Road 93 crossing upstream to its headwaters, which is above the confluence, that's mapped in the petition.
Okay, so I'll take ownership of this. I managed the 303D, 305B list for 19 years. And part of our thought process when we're ONRWs and other waters is they are referenced on our 303D, 305B integrated reporting list. So I would speculate in this case that road crossing is very close to what we chose as the confluence to make that designation. If it pleases the commission, we can change it to the exact wording in the special trout waters. But from just a stream reach management perspective, that's probably why we made that call to move that point. And I respect what you're saying, and we're completely fine making that change if it pleases the commission.
The one I'm most interested in is the Rio Savoya. It refers to the actual state game commission rule refers from Seven Springs Day Use Area upstream to the headwaters, including McKinney Pond. And the petition includes protection all the way down to Calaveras Creek. Let me back up. I'll just restart. The petition includes the designation all the way down to Calaveras Creek, which is, I think, a few miles.
And can see them. One moment, please. Another goal we had with this petition is filling gaps between designated ONRW reaches. And so we're looking at the map to see if that's part of what this situation as well. This is all within.
There it is on here.
Oh, yeah.
So
This is wilderness.
this is special.
Did we? Used
language.
Mike and I are conferring, and we believe we use the layers from New Mexico Game and Fish to make that. And again, if the commission would like to do so, we can reduce that.
I think that's all my questions.
Thank you. Mr. Chair.
I have no questions.
All right, thank you.
I have no questions. Thank you.
All right. Commissioner.
Thank you for your testimony. I have no questions. Thank you.
Commissioner Dominguez.
Very much, but I do have questions. I know we've been going for a while. If we wanted to take a break before I launch into a dissertation.
All right, no, we can certainly do that. Thank you very much. Let's take 15 minutes. I let them go a minute too long and now they won't stop. Ms. Fox.
Could everybody please sit down?
We're coming back from the break now.
Yeah. One witness.
Watch it, sit down. Make me wave a gavel around. All right. We are back after a short break. And when we broke, Commissioner Dominguez was about to ask his questions of the Environment Department.
Madam Hearing Officer,
Before Commissioner Dominguez asks his questions, the department has additional information to share in response to Commissioner Patton's questions. If we may take a moment.
Yes, go ahead.
Lynette Guevara would like to address his question.
Thank you for entertaining a lengthier explanation. We have some map resources that Shelley's going to pull up here and display on the screen, or show you if she can't here in the room. For Rio Cebolla, I just wanted to elaborate a little bit more on that particular nomination. We have an online public-facing GIS website, and it's called SWQB Mapper, and we put the special trout water layer on there that we got directly from New Mexico Game and Fish, so people could see how that line work laid out with our nominating line work. We also have the ONRW line work up there. And what we found, we're not able to get it on the screen for people at home or in their offices. What we found was there were discrepancies, because I would argue that NMED's hydrologic line work is better and more up to date than the Game and Fish line work that we received, and we relayed that to them. Our GIS specialists who worked on it for this particular example, the headwaters actually go off to the east. They don't go to the point that was in the Game and Fish special trout water line work. So we had corresponded with Game and Fish about this, and we'll continue to help improve the line work. But we feel confident that we are displaying what the headwaters are, and the wording for this particular special trout water. Let's see, Shelley, I think, can pull up the dialog box. It says 2 headwaters. So there are some discrepancies like this. This is why we extended the line work to what we know to be headwaters.
Okay, thank you. Like the headwaters is I'm okay with the description there. What I was referring to is the State Game Commission rule, and that's really what it designates as special trout water, is not the Department of Game and Fish, it's State Game Commission rule. That's part of the New Mexico Administrative Code. And that rule refers to the special trout water ending at the Rio Cebolla day use area, which is about halfway. Keep going upstream. Keep going upstream. There's a parking area somewhere. And so I guess my point is that the special trout water does not extend all the way to Calaveras Canyon. It's somewhere up in the Rio Cebolla Canyon. So I would just refer to the Game Commission rule as the description for the special trout water.
Yes, we can do that. Thank you.
Great, thank you for that clarification. Mr. Dominguez.
Thank you, Madam Hearing Officer. Mr. Bucket, thank you for your testimony today. Fortunately, my fellow commissioners covered a few of the questions I had, but I've got a few follow-up or different path of questioning. So part of my questioning will start with the petition itself, Exhibit 4, I believe. and I'm looking at page 8, where you talk about a summary of water quality conditions. So in the paragraph before the table, you say many of the proposed stream reaches are meeting all monitored water quality standards for the designated uses. When you use the term many, can you qualify or quantify the term many?
Thank you for the question. Chair Thompson, Commissioner Dominguez, and other members of the commission. I think it would be very difficult to quantify that. I think because that could be, you could say that on maybe a pollutant by pollutant basis, so whether or not it's meeting a standard. Meaning all, not okay. So meaning all. I said. So we might have parameters in the water that we don't monitor for, that we might not have information to say that it's meeting the standard. And I think that's why the language is why it is, because it's hard to say with any certainty, or making it too complex and pages of data to really analyze it to say exactly how many are meeting each standard, let's say for temperature, or say for DO, or for any other parameter that we have information for. Just looking at the list, I would have to compare the two, table 1 and table 2, to see how many are not on there. Just to see. So I think that statement refers to specific pollutants for which we have data for. But I would say I think it's too numerous to actually quantify. If you recall Appendix B to the nomination, it was hundreds of pages of water quality data. And so it's very difficult to boil that down into a clear analysis of what is and isn't meeting everything. And so the way we presented the information was what is not meeting our standards. What data do we have that doesn't meet the standards?
Okay, fair enough. So let's flip in. You referred to table 2. So looking at table 2 of segments that are not impaired, rough calculations of not impaired, it's about 20% of those segments. Impaired segments are about 41%, and not assessed 39%. And those are my rough calculations based off of table 2. So, for example, the segments that are not assessed, if there is no baseline data, how does the department determine degradation?
Very good question. Thank you, Commissioner Dominguez, Chair Thompson, and the rest of the commission. I believe it would be determined on a case-by-case, applicant-by-applicant basis. So if an applicant came in, I think that the department would either have to look at existing uses and see if we have any information to see if any existing use has been achieved. If not, we may require some monitoring for some period of time to establish a baseline condition in order for us to do an anti-degradation analysis.
Okay. So let me flip the question in to the impaired segments. So these segments that are currently impaired, is that the baseline then at the point in time, if the commission approves these designations, that's the baseline for determining degradation. We have an impaired stream, so that is now the baseline.
That is correct. That would be the set baseline which the water quality cannot be degraded below for specific pollutants. So to clarify, when we do an anti-degradation review, it's done on a pollutant by pollutant basis. So for some of these impairments, like for temperature, it might be reviewed for that, but it might not be impaired for other parameters. So the anti-degradation wouldn't apply to those other parameters. It would apply to, or the impairment only applies to the temperature portion.
Okay. I want to go back to your previous answer, talking about the segments that have not been assessed. And maybe I'm looking at this too simplistic. If one of the key things with ONRW designations is there cannot be degradation of these new tier 3 waters, wouldn't it be prudent to actually have data for the commission to work off of, whereas almost 40% of the stream segments have not been assessed, and the commission is saying there cannot be degradation, but we actually don't have baseline data there. To me, it almost makes this circular argument of what the commission's approving.
Commissioner Dominguez, Chair Thompson, and other members of the commission, I believe that our monitoring strategies are developed to implement our resources the best that we can. And so for some of these stream reaches, they may be very difficult to access, and they may be the data that we do get from monitoring these may not be as valuable as some of the other reaches within the area that we are visiting. So we may not have indications that there would be sources of degradation, or that we don't have permittees in the area, and so these creeks may not be getting the data collected because of the resources required to do that. Yeah, I think I'll leave it.
Sure.
Ms. Guevara would like to address this question.
I'd just like to add to that. I think Mike did a great job summarizing the challenge of sampling water quality in headwater streams, especially with a monitoring staff of 5 who monitor around the entire state. We have made a lot of changes and initiatives in our section to pull more staff into sampling as much as possible. And I'm happy to announce we actually have an official volunteer monitoring coordinator position now, who's filled by this gentleman here. And he is on the standards and outreach team. And we have all sorts of ideas to share with our NGO partners about hooking into this program called Adventure Scientist to get the people who love to backpack, train them up and get them up there and get data for these headwater systems. Also, our bureau regularly coordinates with the U.S. Forest Service. We just had our annual meeting last week, and this is always a topic: how to get more data for our ONRWs to know and ensure that we're protecting them. So rest assured, it's high on our mind.
Thank you. Let's switch to a point in the petition regarding the anti-degradation policy that, and I'm actually looking at the petition page 4. no degradation is allowed except under certain circumstances, one of them being to accommodate public health or safety activities in an area. And with that, no degradation. It's supposed to be temporary, can't last more than 6 months. So, and given that any of those situations, those circumstances actually have to come before the commission. There's a process laid out. Are you aware? I think it was mentioned earlier, the first ONRW designation was 2005. Have there ever been circumstances that any of these emergency situations have been brought before the commission?
Commissioner Dominguez, Chair Thompson, and other members of the commission, I personally am not aware of any emergency actions that have occurred where we have, where anyone has brought in a petition to the commission to do these activities.
Okay. And if we want to turn to other staff members with, quote, more experience, I'm not going to say that have been there for ever.
Ms. Lemon would like to address this question.
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Dominguez, there have been situations where there have been emergency measures in like wildfire season where the Forest Service or others, the state management agency takes emergency measures to protect the forest and the resource, and they work with us. They submit notification to us in ONRWs. It's because it's an emergency situation, we don't require prior approval. And there is a process in the regulations for that in 20.6.4. We also have non-emergency measures for the pesticide general permit that the Department of Game and Fish uses. And when it's in an ONRW, they notify the department reviews it, make sure that they're meeting the requirements in 20.6.4. And we work with the Department of Game and Fish to ensure that those regulations are met.
Okay. You actually answered my second question on that, and that was with fire response, if the department was being notified of that. So let's go back to the first question for the non-emergency situations. And I don't know if it's in I think it's in EPA's anti-degradation policy. The example they use is a culvert or a bridge has to be repaired that's in the stream segments. That was more where I was leading with the question if any of those type situations have ever occurred. And my rationale for asking that is if we're on about the 6th series of ONRW designations, there are miles and miles of stream segments that at some point in time, Forest Service or state DOT or somebody will have to do work. And that requires a process both through the Environment Department and then before this commission. So I don't recall any, but your memory's probably better than mine.
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Dominguez, I'm not sure about that, but I do know there have been road construction. Most of the prior ONRW designations have been in wilderness areas, which do not have vehicle traffic. So the one that where we get a lot of work on is in the Valle Vidal, and Valle Vidal, VALLE VIDAL. And we do get notification when they're working on roads, or I don't recall any through like across streams, but near streams, and that requires 404 permitting through the Army Corps of Engineers. And so we collaborate and coordinate with the Army Corps and the permittee on those activities.
So at what point in time would the process require the step to come before the commission?
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Dominguez, looking at the regulations, it is, let's see, for non-emergencies, it's after providing a 30-day public review and comment period. That's
Is that emergencies?
No, that's not emergencies.
Okay.
So for emergencies. Yes, Commissioner Dominguez, for emergencies within 30 days of initiation of the emergency response action, the discharger shall provide a summary of the action taken, including all actions taken to comply with the requirements of the subparagraphs within this. And I'm looking at 20.6.4.8 8A3. Is it A2? No, A3 C4. So for emergency actions, after 30 days of initiating that, they have to provide a report of what was done. For non-emergency actions, after a 30-day public comment and review period and receiving a recommendation from the department, then they bring it to the commission and see if their activity would be allowed.
And Mr. Chair, Commissioner Dominguez, I believe most of the activities that have happened in an ONRW to date have been avoidance, so it's not impacting the water resource. Again, we do have most of our interactions are with wildfire suppression and with the pesticide treatments to bring in native fish populations.
Thank you, Ms. Webb. Let's switch gears, Mr. Baca. Previously, you answered some questions about the Chevron mining area, and is it my understanding that that is undergoing reclamation, correct?
Chair Thompson, Commissioner Dominguez, and other members of the commission. That is my understanding. That is in the Superfund program and undergoing cleanup as we speak.
So will any of that reclamation potentially any of those activities create any ongoing disturbances that may create degradation for the adjacent stream segment that's being proposed.
Commissioner Dominguez, Chair Thompson, and the rest of the commission. I believe that permit is, already issued for those activities, and that degradation was considered within that permit. And so the baseline, I believe, is already set based on the issuance of that permit and the water quality data that we currently have. So I would think that if the entity complied with its permit and its conditions of monitoring and EMPs, that no degradation should occur to that, to what they were permitted to discharge or allowed to enter the stream.
Okay, thank you for that answer. So now, if it's accounted for within that permit of BMPs, there should not be something come up. I guess where my line of thought was going, if we've got ongoing reclamation in an area, would it be more prudent to postpone proposing that stream segment until those reclamation projects have been completed, therefore not impeding the reclamation, because we want that to get cleaned up and taken care of? So it's almost this double-edged sword. We want the reclamation done and cleaned up, but if it's going to impede reclamation so that there's not degradation, we get into it, creating a little bit of a conundrum there. So, but if the department has taken that into consideration with the permit, I'll go with that. I think my last set of questions revolve around the fish hatcheries that have discharge permits and are within a proposed stream segment or above a proposed stream segment. And those are in PDS permits with EPA, correct?
That is correct.
In reviewing Director Sloan's letter during the public comment period, he raised concerns of those fish hatcheries being able to properly serve their function and the potential with, if EPA changed something up in that permit, the potential for those fish hatcheries to, in essence, no longer exist, which then basically offsets special trout waters because they're producing trout to go into these stream segments that we're protecting here. It gives me pause that we're potentially placing fish hatcheries that are doing a phenomenal job of rearing fish for all these special trout waters. Yet now they're going to be under a further microscope of not having any exceedances. It gives me pause that we're potentially setting them up for failure. No, that was more of a statement than a question, but Environment Department had met with Game and Fish. What was the outcome of that discussion dealing with the fish hatcheries?
Commissioner Dominguez, Chair Thompson, and the rest of the commission. We did discuss the MPDS permit issuance and the possibility of hamstringing them or limiting their ability to produce fish. And looking in their permits and talking to them, it sounds like they're pretty much at the max capacity to produce their fish at most of these hatcheries. And if they plan to expand, they would have to do further treatment before discharging, or else they are facing standards violations. And so that was my understanding, is that they're already up to the limit of their production right now. And that expansion would require a significant investment in cleaning up the water before actually discharging it back in. So there would be some work that would have to go in if any expansion or increase due to the discharge should occur in the future. But from our conversations, it felt like the Department of Game and Fish said that they did not have plans to expand those any further than they were at this point.
Okay, and I don't think my line of questioning was so much around expansion, but just continuing operation and the concern of EPA changing anything in a permit that might cause them hardship of just continuing operation, not expanding.
Commissioner Dominguez, Chair Thompson, and the rest of the commission, I do believe, the permit is already issued, and so I don't think that they would be able to reopen it and say, now you're an owner W and have to do a different anti-degradation analysis. I believe it's a reissuance of their permit that is existing, and so I don't think that any further requirements would come onto them on their reissuance of their permit. Of course, we're not the permitting authority right now, and you never know what could happen, but in theory, that the new level of scrutiny should not apply to an existing permittee.
But when that permit comes due for renewal, the issuing agency can't modify the permit at that point in time, correct?
I believe they would be able to. I better look to my bureau chief to answer permitting questions better than me.
Ms. Lemon.
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Dominguez, with a permit reissuance, typically they remain the same unless there are changes in operation. If, like Mr. Baca said, if they increase their discharge or their capacity, they're receiving and treating for different types of pollutants, then the permit would change. But if it's the same conditions from the prior permit, typically you don't see changes or they're minor changes. I will also mention that the state is pursuing NPDES primacy. So we should hopefully be in a better position and not dependent on EPA's decisions, but we can make those decisions as a state and working with the permittees to implement permits that are appropriate and protective of water quality. So I'll just put that little nugget in there too.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Lemon. So there was a little bit of discussion about the wastewater treatment plant that's direct discharge. Well, am I correct that it's a direct discharge into the stream segment, or is it above the proposed segment?
Chair Thompson, Commissioner Dominguez, the wastewater treatment plant is upstream of the nominated owner W segment, so it is not currently discharging to what we have nominated.
Okay, thank you. Madam Hearing Officer, no more questions.
Thank you, Commissioner Dominguez. Commissioner Gilliam?
No questions.
Right, thank you. We have at least two commissioners, I believe, on the platform. Commissioner Polidolu? May
Sorry,
have stepped
no
away.
questions. Yeah.
Thank you. And Commissioner McWilliams?
Yes, good morning. I just have a quick question. I was wondering if you could elaborate on what other trout waters would now have an eligibility requirement? If you could elaborate on that a little bit.
Can you repeat the question? I'm not sure I understand what was asked.
I took it from, I believe, Commissioner Brinkard's questions that you had answered that there might be an eligibility requirement for other trout waters of the state. And I was just wanting to know a little bit more about that.
Chair Thompson, Commissioner McWilliams, and other members of the commission. I don't believe that the ONRW designation today will designate any waters as special trout waters. We are using the criteria under 9B1 that they are special trout waters to qualify them as an ONRW. So I don't think there's the opposite effect of where designating a stream as an ONRW would qualify it to become a special trout water.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Are there any other commissioners on the platform? No? All right. Is there any follow-up, Ms. Weatherly?
None from the department.
All right. Thank you very much. Any reason not to excuse Mr. Baca, Ms. Lemon, and Ms. Guevara? No? All right. Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll turn now to Ms. Fox.
Good morning again, Commissioners. Tanis Fox, representing Amigos Bravos and Trout Unlimited. We have a very short presentation and summary of Mr. Roper's testimony.
Mr. Roper, do you swear or affirm to tell the truth? Thank you. You're going to have to speak much louder than that. Turn on your mic.
I do.
Thank you. Please state your name.
Dan Roper.
What is your current employment?
I'm the New Mexico program lead for Trout Unlimited. In this position, I oversee a team of 5, working closely with our grassroots members across the state, including 4 local chapters and our nonprofit state and federal agency partners. Our mission is focused on bringing together diverse interests to care for and recover our rivers and streams so our children can experience the joy of wild and native trout.
And what's your educational background?
I have a bachelor's degree in the environmental sciences from the University of North Carolina at Asheville. I also have a master's degree in public policy from Oregon State University with an emphasis in natural resource management.
And what is your work background?
I have worked for nonprofit organizations and state and federal agencies in 3 Western states. Before stepping into the role of New Mexico program lead, I led Trout Unlimited's policy and advocacy work for nearly 5 years. I'm also an angler who's familiar with many of the nominated waters in the petition before you today, and I represent a community of anglers familiar with New Mexico's trout streams and the nominated waters.
Is ABTU Exhibit 1 an accurate copy of your resume?
Yes, it is.
And can you identify ABTU Exhibit 2?
Yes, I can. ABTU Exhibit 2 is my direct testimony in this matter.
Do you adopt that testimony as your sworn testimony today?
I do.
Mr. Roper, would you please give a brief summary of your testimony for the commission?
Certainly. First, thank you, commissioners, for the opportunity to be here before you today. This is my first time in front of the Water Quality Control Commission, and I promise to keep it brief. As an angler, as a father of 2 young kids, and as someone who is familiar with many of the nominated waters in the petition before you, I'm happy to speak in support of this petition as presented by the New Mexico Environment Department. Today, I represent an organization comprised of members whose knowledge of New Mexico's waters, especially its trout streams, is unrivaled. In my nearly 6 years of working for Trout Unlimited, I have yet to encounter a trout stream in this state, however small or remote, that at least one of our members isn't familiar with. As such, my written testimony includes many references to specific waters that are being nominated today. Based on our familiarity with waters in this petition and trout streams in particular, Trout Unlimited unequivocally endorses designation of the stream segments nominated today by NMED. My testimony focuses specifically on segments that are managed as special trout waters and designated as such. Outside of the fishing community, the term special trout waters is not widely understood, but make no mistake, these waters include many of the best and most popular places to fish in all of New Mexico, while others are vital to the future of native trout conservation. The list of nominated waters being considered today includes many of the state's most popular rivers for trout fishing, like the Rio Chamo, the Pecos, the Red River, the Cimarron, the Rio Guadalupe, and the Rio de los Pinos, all of which include segments managed as special trout waters by the New Mexico Department of Game and Fish. These waters are not only popular with New Mexico anglers, they are also popular with out-of-state visitors, and as such, many of our local fishing guides and fly shops regularly take out-of-state visitors to fish on these waters. That activity creates jobs, it supports local businesses, and it contributes to our tax base. Without a doubt, the collective body of waters in this petition is a major contributor to the state's outdoor recreation and its tourism economy. This petition also includes numerous stream segments managed as special trout waters due to their importance for native trout conservation, including many streams that contain core populations of Rio Grande cutthroat trout, New Mexico's state fish. I'd like to stress that preserving clean water in these streams is absolutely essential to the survival of native trout and for keeping species like Rio Grande cutthroat off the federal endangered species list. Today, Rio Grande cutthroat occupy just a small percentage of their historic range, somewhere around 12%. Much of their remaining habitat exists in smaller headwater streams like the Cebolla, the Columbine, the San Cristobal, the Frijoles, Tonkas, and Tio Grande creeks, all of which are nominated in the petition before you. It's in these places that native trout continue to persist, relying on sources of cold, clean water that headwater streams reliably provide. As anglers and people working in trout conservation, we understand that you can't have great fishing and you can't have healthy trout without clean water. While trout are hardy and adaptable species that can survive in less than ideal conditions, to thrive, trout require specific parameters for things like temperature, pH, dissolved oxygen, turbidity, as well as an absence of pollutants like pesticides, excess nutrients, and heavy metals. Not only do trout require clean water, but their presence in a watershed is often considered an indicator of good water quality. One thing we like to say at Trout Unlimited is that if trout are doing well upstream, things are probably better downstream too. In addition to preserving water quality, maintaining the ability to restore habitat and maintain or enhance native fish barriers that protect upstream populations are also critically important conservation tools. As an organization, we are confident that these actions can and will continue under ONRW designations. The last thing I'll add is that preserving healthy watersheds and clean water is also a hedge against stressors like drought and climate change. And this benefits everyone from agriculture and acequias to municipal water users and the fishing community. These things are all critically important to the communities and the culture of northern New Mexico, and they all benefit from clean water. As such, I can attest to these waters as being valuable resources to the state and deserving the highest possible water quality protection. By keeping trout streams clean and fishable, we offer hope and opportunity to future generations.
This concludes Mr. Roper's summary. I'd like to move for admission of ABTU Exhibits 1 and 2.
Right? Any objection, Ms. Weatherly or Mr. Maxwell? Right? No? Thank you. Exhibits 1 and 2 are admitted.
Mr. Roper now stands for questions.
Thank you. Ms. Weatherly, do you have questions of Mr. Roper? Thank you. Mr. Maxwell, do you have questions of Mr. Roper?
Just a few. Hello, Mr. Roper. My name is Nick Maxwell, and I'd like to find out if in your position, do you hear complaints about the habitat for trout from your members?
Mr. Maxwell, and correct me if I need to go through the chair, I can do that as well. First time here, so still learning the process. Mr. Maxwell, yes, habitat considerations are a really important factor for the future of native trout and wild trout conservation. And there are a number of places all across the state where we are concerned about the quality of habitat.
Specific to this wastewater treatment plant that's been discussed during this hearing, have you received complaints from members specific to that facility?
Mr. Maxwell, no, I've not received complaints, and I'm not aware of any.
And I'd like to ask the same question regarding the Chevron mining facility too. Are you aware of any complaints from your members regarding the waters near that area or downstream from it?
Mr. Maxwell, no, not at this time. Water quality in the Red River below the treatment plant you mentioned was for a long time a concern of our members. Water quality in that stretch of river is much better than it used to be, and it's not a place where I hear of active concerns among our membership in terms of when it comes to trout fishing or trout conservation.
And related to the fish hatcheries that have been discussed, have your members expressed concerns regarding our waters in relation to these fish hatcheries?
Mr. Maxwell, no, our members have not expressed concerns. We share a priority of ours is making sure our fish hatcheries are modern and up to date and can meet any of their permit requirements. So we're 100% committed to that, but I have not heard complaints among our membership about water quality in fish hatcheries at this time.
Thank you very much for answering my questions. That's it for me.
Thank you, Mr. Maxwell. I'll start on that side this time. Commissioner Gilliam, do you have questions of Mr. Roper?
No questions.
Commissioner Dominguez?
Thank you, Madam Hearing Officer. I do have a quick question. Mr. Roper, thank you for your testimony today. You were here and heard the prior testimony in line of questioning. Is that correct?
Mr. Chair, Commissioner, yes, I was here and I did hear it.
Okay. So you heard the line of questioning and comments regarding the concerns over the fish hatcheries. And if one or all of those fish hatcheries cease to exist, what impact would that have on the mission of Trout Unlimited?
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Dominguez, it would have a significant impact, largely when it comes to fishing opportunity. It wouldn't impact our conservation mission when it comes to native trout species, but it would impact opportunity for New Mexico's angling community.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Roper. That's all my questions.
Thank you. Commissioner, questions?
No questions. Thanks for your testimony.
Vice Chair?
No questions. Thank you.
Mr. Chair?
I don't have any questions either. Thank you.
Okay. Commissioner Patton?
Yes, thank you. In full disclosure, I know Mr. Roper quite well. We routinely talk about native trout conservation and fishing and all of those things. Also noteworthy is I've spent a good chunk of my career working as a Rio Grande cutthroat trout biologist, trying to firsthand conserve and work in many of these streams. So I have a close connection to these areas. But my question is related to the conversation we had with Mr. Baca earlier in the Rio Savoia. And Madam Hearing Officer, if I get out of line here, please rein me in. It's related to potential limits on the production of native trout at Seven Springs Fish Hatchery, which is currently within the reach designated by the Environment Department for an ONRW status. With the State Game Commission designation upstream of the hatchery, would that still meet your support? Would that still lead to your support of that ONRW designation for the Rio Savoia?
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Patton, just to make sure I follow the question correctly, are you asking if the segment was moved upstream, so it is upstream of the fish hatchery entirely? Would we be supportive of that designation?
Correct.
The answer is yes. We would be supportive, and of course, throughout this entire process, we have had an open ear to any concerns that the department might have from a fisheries management perspective.
Great, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Brinker.
No questions.
Okay, Commissioner Velasquez.
No questions.
And Commissioner Vihel.
No questions, thank you.
All right, we'll go to the platform. Commissioner McWilliams.
I have no questions. Thank you.
All right, and Commissioner Polidoro.
No questions for me.
All right, thank you very much. Any follow-up, Ms. Fox?
No, Madam Hearing Officer, thank you.
Any reason not to excuse Mr. Warbler? All right, we'll do that. Thank you very much. All right, Mr. Maxwell, would you like to offer a statement?
I do not have a statement today. Thank you for asking.
Right. Thank you. Let's turn then to public comment. This is non-technical public comment. Who in the room? Let's see. Oh, Miss Trujillo is waiting. There you are. Okay. Terrific. I know you've been waiting. If you'd come up, state and spell your first and last name, please.
Thank you. Hello, my name is Tanya Trujillo, Tanya Trujillo.
Thank you. Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth?
Yes.
All right, please go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman and or Madam Hearing Officer and Mr. Chairman. And first, I would just like to commend the Commission on selection of the Vice Chair. I appreciate Commissioner Zemlich's great experience and expertise in her work. Good afternoon. My name is Tanya Trujillo. I am the Deputy State Engineer, but I'm also the Governor's Water Policy Advisor, and am here in that capacity to make a public comment. The comment is in support of the designation. As a parent in the Governor's 50-year Water Action Plan, water is a critical resource that must be protected. New Mexico's water resources continue to face threats of climate change, contributing to limited and decreasing water supplies for local governments, cultures, economies, agriculture, wildlife, and outdoor recreation activities. The strength and beauty of an ONRW is that it is afforded the highest protection of water quality under the state's policies. It does not prevent discharges from occurring, but it does require scrutiny to protect the ONRW. The waters that the New Mexico Environment Department has nominated as ONRWs are all waters that are significant to areas with state or federal special designations, such as state special trout waters, national or state parks, monuments, wildlife refuges, wilderness areas, or they are part of a national wild and scenic river.
The ONRWs that the New Mexico Environment Department proposes today will further the goals of the Governor's Executive Order 2021-52, protecting New Mexico's lands, watersheds, wildlife, natural heritage by helping to conserve, protect, and enhance New Mexico's natural environment and prevent degradation and surface and groundwater quality issues across watersheds. Thank you very much. I appreciate the opportunity to be here today.
Thank you very much, Mr. Hale. Who else? I think I saw a hand over here. Oh, great, a couple of hands. I know the two gentlemen in the back have been here the longest. If you would come up one at a time, please. We will also accept public comment from the platform in just a few moments. If you would state and spell your first and last name, please, sir.
My name is Telesfor Benavides, Telesfor Benavidez.
Thank you. Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth?
Mr. Chair and Commissioners, good morning and thank you for allowing me to speak on behalf of the Village of Pecos. My name is Telesfor Benavides and have been the mayor for the past 7 years. I would like to thank the Water Quality Commission for your commitment to protect our water in the Pecos region and New Mexico. As you are aware, the Village of Pecos was one of the original petitioners to protect the Upper Pecos water shed Terrero mines. Today's proposal will stretch through the Pecos National Historical Park, which is approximately 1.5 miles from the Village of Pecos watershed treatment plant. Although we are supportive of understanding national resource waters protection along the Pecos National Historical Park, the Village of Pecos is concerned how this petition will affect expansion of the village and the region. Throughout the region, there are a couple thousand septic tanks that may be contaminating our existing surface and groundwater. The village is currently working with our neighbors in the unincorporated areas to take systems of septic tanks and hook them up to the village wastewater treatment plant. This effort is essential to protect the waters for future generations. We believe that this petition could potentially hamper our efforts and tie our hands to address future growth and address environmental standards and concerns for our community. For these reasons, we respectfully request that further consultations are held in the region and communities to better assess the long-term efforts that we would have to the Village of Pecos and the region. The East Pecos community, which is not part of the incorporation municipality of the Village of Pecos, has for the past 14 years strived to build a sanitary sewer system to connect to the Village of Pecos wastewater treatment plant. These are exempt. There exists an exempt contract agreement between the village and the East Pecos Municipal Domestic Water Consumer Association to achieve this. It is critical that this project be complete as soon as possible, as there exists the potential of wastewater from exiting septic tanks and in some cases open sewer pits now being used by the East Pecos community, of polluting the drinking wells and the Pecos River. Not only does this pose a serious risk to the public health and safety of the citizens, but to communities south of the river that depend heavily on river water for agriculture. The reason this project has been delayed over the years is the association inability to acquire adequate funding. However, the association has already made a significant monetary investment on the project. The Village of Pecos wastewater treatment plant is currently operating at 30% capacity. It is estimated that when hooking up the East Pecos source system, capacity will not exceed 70%. The plant is engineered to effectively operate at 86% capacity. The association has been assured that hooking up East Pecos to the village wastewater treatment plant will have a minimum impact. The village of Pecos got a $6 million sewer plant built in 2009. My first year as mayor, we were not in compliance with some of the rules from the existing sewer plant. So the village acquired over $1 million to remove 2 of the ponds that were left behind. The water was taken out, the sludge was removed, and the liners were removed. The problem is those were built on top of a spring, an ojito. So what we have left to do at the sewer plant is to take the dikes down, and the state has given us permission some time to remove those here. Hopefully by the spring, just put the dikes down and finish the project. The village of Pecos takes 2 samples a month, and we test for BOD, TSS, and E. coli. The BOD is the biochemical oxygen demand and total suspended solids. We have not had any bad samples taken. The village is also looking into acquiring money for a holding tank so that the gray water that is distributed automatically into the Pecos River can be stored and sold for roads and other stuff that is needed in and around the community. I'd like to thank you again for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Good morning, Madam Hearing Officer and Mr. Chair, members of the commission. My name is Ralph Vigil, Ralphvigil.
Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth?
Yes, I do.
Thank you. Go ahead.
I'm a resident of Pecos. I'm also a former chairman of the New Mexico Acequia Commission, a 7th generation Acequia Parciante and partner in Pecos since our anciano, Don Anciano Vigil Acero in Pecos, and established our acequia in the mid-1800s. Water quality is extremely important to us. We're at the headwaters of the Pecos. We honor and pride ourselves in being the stewards of those headwaters and being able to pass good water down to our neighbors to the south. There's been contaminants that have degradated our water in the past from mine spills from the old Toledo mine. There still remains a threat of mining in the future that could contaminate our river. And we see that the Pecos River is a very crucial river to this state, being the largest river in the state that actually originates here. And we need to protect it. Although I do share those same concerns, being that I am a resident of East Pecos and a mutual domestic member in East Pecos, and I do share the concern of our septic systems and old outdated cesspools that may still be lingering in the area could be potentially contaminating our water. So the stretch through the National Historical Park does, there are some concerns on what impact that could have on the village's capacity. But overall, I feel that this state and this commission has done a good job in leading the nation and taking matters into its own hands and protecting our waters and coming together as a state, bringing different stakeholders together to discuss these difficult decisions and topics, because I know that economics and so many other different factors are involved. But the overall feeling is that we do need to protect our waters from future contaminations. It's our responsibilities to our future generations, as I am a father and a grandfather, and I do wish to pass on the legacy of clean water to our to my grandkids and their grandkids as well, so that they can continue to irrigate out of those acequias and provide clean water to our community. Without that clean water, it would hamper and basically kill our ability to continue, because I would not want to be irrigating with contaminated water or spreading contaminated water through my valley. So with that, I just want to thank you for all your work and your service on this commission in helping to maintain New Mexico's water quality. And again, I just hope that we as a state continue to move forward in this ONRW work. But I, do still have those concerns of just, the stretch in the Pecos. But I do agree with all the other stretches that are up for protection today. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Behel. Let's see, I think I saw another hand in the blue shirt, sir. And then we'll go to the platform for 3 comments. State and spell your first and last name.
I'm Bruce Scott, BRUCESCOTT.
And do you swear or affirm to tell the truth?
I do.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Thank you, commissioners, for this opportunity to speak in support of the nomination of these 46 incredible waters of New Mexico. I speak as a member of Trout Unlimited and as a board member for the Truchas chapter, representing over 400 TU members in this area. I belong to Trout Unlimited not because I love trout as much as because I love where trout live. And our mission to conserve, protect, and restore fisheries and their watersheds. One of the reasons that my wife and I came to New Mexico, and one of the reasons we love New Mexico, is that this is a place where we use both our minds and our hearts to make decisions about our state and our future. So I respect the incredible work of this petition and respect what this commission does. So I won't talk about details, but just talk about heart a little bit. So I'm here simply to say that these waters are indeed outstanding and deserving. I have walked in them. The Chama, Rio de los Pinos, the Red River, the Pecos, and one of the original designated waters, the Rio Santa Barbara. I've stood reverently in them, watched them, felt them flow in all 4 seasons. I've listened to their rumbling and their giggling, and every time renewed my sense of awe in the life of our planet. On occasion, I've even connected to a gorgeous trout. But honestly, my iPhone is filled with as many pictures of the water and the habitat as there are pictures of trout. Catching fish is really incidental to why I'm an angler. I go to the river to connect to the life of the river, to feel the cold stream, see the bugs and the invertebrates and the mammals and the fowl, and again, occasionally the fish that these rivers support, to actually feel the life that is sustained here. These rivers feed our souls, give us life, give us beauty, give us the sense of awe. Please protect them with this designation. With our bodies comprised mostly of water and the requirements our bodies have for water to stay alive, isn't it incredible that we must, quote, designate, unquote, and regulate in order to keep these streams alive? But we as humans have proven our disregard and disloyalty over and over again. So I urge you to use this mechanism to protect what keeps our outstanding waters outstanding. Thank you for your good work in allowing us to speak.
Thank you, Mr. Scott. Go to the platform for 3 comments. Brittany Fallon. Brittany Fallon.
Hi.
Oh,
My name
hello.
is Brittany Fallon with Western Resource Advocates.
All right. Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth?
Yes.
All right. And I see your, I can see the spelling of your name, BRITTANYFALLON.
That's correct.
All right. Go ahead.
Thank you. Western Resource Advocates supports this ONRW nomination because of the immense benefits that it offers to New Mexicans, our watersheds, and our wildlife. I like to say that here in New Mexico, we're often so concerned about whether there is any water or not that sometimes we forget the importance of ensuring that the water we do have is high quality. And this petition adds new protections and layers additional protections to waters that have sustained local communities and ecosystems where New Mexicans love to raft and fish, and ensures that these pristine waters are preserved and protected for future generations. We thank the department for their hard work in this petition, and we ask the commission to support these designations. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Fallon. Nick Straight.
Yes, that's correct. Hello, my name is Nick Straight, Nick Streit.
Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth?
I do.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Thank you, commissioners. I would just like to add some comments in support of protecting these waters as NRWs. I've had a fly fishing business in New Mexico my entire life. My dad actually started the business back in 1980. Unfortunately, we've seen the effects firsthand of what degraded water quality can do to our business back in the 80s, in particular with the Red River and the molybdenum mine there. And the degradation of that river was one of the contributing factors of my dad actually having to close down the business in 1987. Luckily, that river's in better shape now, and we've reopened the business and things are going well. But we've seen threats more recently in some of these rivers like the Rio Chama, dam repair and restoration on both the Elvado and Abiquiu dams has led to flows going to 0 CFS for periods of time on those rivers, negatively impacting the trout fishing. And then, of course, we have threats on all of these rivers. But just wanted to add my support for these designations. We rely on clean water for our business, and want to also thank the work for the Game Commission, Commissioner Patton, for understanding that these waters are special and hence designating them as special trout waters. And I think that these designations of ONRW just go alongside with that work and the importance of these waters. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Straight. Rachel Ellis on the platform. Rachel Ellis.
Yes. Can you all hear me?
Yeah. So would you state and spell your first and last name?
Yes. My name is Rachel Ellis, RACHELELLIS.
Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth?
Yes, I do.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Thank you to the commission for this opportunity to provide a comment. Again, my name is Rachel Ellis. I represent the Southwest River Protection Program of American Rivers, which is a national conservation organization dedicated to protecting and restoring our country's most important rivers. But I was also born and raised in northern New Mexico, and I can personally attest to the value of many of these nominated reaches, and the reaches along the Rio Chama being some of my favorite. So for my comment, I would like to highlight in essentially a summary fashion the incredible, widespread, and diverse support that exists for NMED's petition. Earlier this year, when NMED released their draft petition for comment, they received 709 supportive comments, and there were actually requests to expand the scope of the petition to include more reaches. There was only one substantive concern raised at that stage, which was from the Department of Game and Fish. And as we already heard today, NMED worked with them and those concerns have been alleviated. And then for this comment period with the WQCC, there have been 836 comments to the commission in support of the petition. And this is inclusive of the governor and her administration support. So that comes to a total of 1,545 supportive comments. So besides the one comment we just heard about the one segment in the Pecos National Historic Park below the village of Pecos, I'm not aware of any comments in opposition beyond that. And so such overwhelming, near unanimous support reflects that our state really values clean water protection and that we understand clean water is critical to the state's agriculture, wildlife, and outdoor recreation economy. So in light of that degree of community support, I encourage the commission to approve the petition in its entirety. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Ellis. Garrett Venaklassen.
Good morning, Garrett Venaklassen, Garrett, V as in Victor, Eneklassen. I'm with New Mexico Wild.
Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth?
I do.
Go ahead.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair, Commissioners. Garrett Venaklassen, born and raised in New Mexico. I live on the Don Fernando River here in Taos. Obviously, clean water is so critical for all of us. I'm an angler, an outdoorsman. So many of our members, our thousands of members statewide, spend so much time in and around rivers, bird watching and rafting and fishing and just hiking. Outdoor recreation is a massive sustainable economic driver for the state. And we and our members enthusiastically encourage you all to please support this petition and the streams segments that are listed in that document. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Venaklassen. Harris Klein. If you're speaking, Mr. Klein, we can't hear you. Cannot hear you. Can you send him a request to unmute himself? He might be able to see that. No, you're still muted. No. All right. One possibility, Mr. Klein, is you could put some form of comment in the chat and we can read it into the record. Or you can send a quick email to Pam Jones. And it'll be included that way. Let me ask if there's anyone else on the platform who has not spoken yet and would like to offer non-technical public comment. No? All right. Anyone else in the room? Yes, come on up, please.
I think this is on.
Yeah, if you could state and spell your first and last.
Good morning, Chair and Commissioners. My name is Catherine Louiselle. That's Catherine. Last name Louis for Sam ELL.
Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth?
Yes.
Thank you. Go ahead.
I live in Ilfeld, New Mexico. I walk the Pecos River often. We were incredibly impacted with the Calf Canyon Hermit's Peak fire. And I'm the former president of the Ilfeld Mutual Domestic Water Association. And I highly support this ONRW designation. The concern for our water is high. We have currently 2 failing wells in our area. And I just feel strongly that clean, clear, healthy water is important for our area and for the state. And I would hate after the fires and the water ran black for our water to not be healthy for our citizens and the wildlife that depends on it. So that's what I'm concerned about. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Loisel. Anyone else in the room would like to offer? Sure. State and spell your names, please.
My name is Dave Wheelock, WHEELOCK.
Thank you. Do you swear or affirm to tell?
And I'm part of the fishing gang here. I'm a member of Trout Unlimited and American Rivers and what have you. I only have two short things to say. Just in addition to agreeing with all the advocates for this measure, is when I was a young lad in the early 1960s, I remember my family lived in the Midwest at the time, but I well remember visiting Idaho and Montana. And the fact I'd like to point out and let people reflect on is that when we were fishing there, you could, if you got thirsty, you didn't need a water bottle. You could drink right out of the streams. I think that's something to point. The other thing I think is worth reflecting on is many of us in the fishing, of course, all of us in the fishing community are very intimately familiar with these places that we're talking about. And someone else said, I think it was Mr. Scott said, it's not the fish that he's mostly in love with, it's the places where the fish live. If many people in our country, in the world, have never visited these places. In fact, I would, from having been there, spent a lot of my life there, I would say the great majority of people have never visited these places. I urge you, if you are one of these people, to visit one of these places. I could recommend the Rio Santa Barbara, not very far from Santa Fe or Taos. Go there and you'll have a new appreciation for this whole project. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Wheelock. Mr. Klein, were you able to unmute yourself?
Well, we're trying. Is that
Hooray,
working?
I can hear you.
Good. Thank
All
you.
right. If you would spell your first and last name, please.
The name is Harris, Harris, Klein, Klein.
Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth?
I do.
Go ahead.
Okay. I'm the past president of the Bosque chapter of Trout Unlimited in Albuquerque and also the past chair of New Mexico Trout Unlimited Council. Mexico, we have 4 chapters of Trout Unlimited from Taos to Las Cruces with about 1,200 members. We in Trout Unlimited work to protect trout and wildlife habitat. Many of the rivers and streams nominated in this petition are managed as special trout waters by New Mexico Department of Game and Fish. These waters also represent some of the best trout fishing streams in the state while also providing important refuge for native fish species and other wildlife. These streams also support local economies and communities. These waters draw locals and visitors from all over the state and the world to hike, camp, bike, hunt, fish, and enjoy the outdoors. This recreational activity in turn helps fuel the state's booming outdoor recreation economy and sustain local businesses, restaurants, hotels, and retail shops. Protecting the environment and combating climate change, ONRW designation is an important tool to protect the water quality in response to the recent Supreme Court Sackett decision that stripped protections from about 95% of New Mexico streams. Of importance to the Albuquerque area, the Savoya and the Guadalupe are two of those streams that lost protection are important to the anglers in this area. Trout Unlimited has worked with NGOs to help clean these waterways with annual cleanups, as well as installing beaver dam analogs to raise the water table. We also do temperature monitoring and we do water quality testing in the Jemez region. The Upper Rio Savoya's historical Rio Grande cutthroat waters, and maintaining water quality is key to keeping our native fish populations healthy. Trout Unlimited throughout the state has partnered with Amigos Bravos in doing the water quality testing from the San Juan to the East Fork of the Jemez and the San Antonio creeks. I urge the department to include the Rio Guadalupe and the Rio Savoya when deciding which waters to include in ONRW. Thank you so much for allowing me to speak.
Thank you, Mr. Klein. Is there anyone else in the room who would like to offer, ma'am? State and spell your first and last name, please.
My name is Sabrina Stairs, and it's spelled SABRINA STAIRES.
Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth?
Yes, I do.
Go ahead.
I am a part of the Tisuke Environmental Watch, and I've really been studying the state water quality and noticed that after living here for 3 years, that it's super vulnerable because we don't have our own standards on a state level. I'm from Oklahoma. My father was an environmental scientist and helped to establish water and air quality standards for that state in 1973. So this state has so much wildlife and so much beauty, and we all value it. These ONWs right now are really important as an extra layer of protection until we can establish higher quality standards for the state. I mean, it's really important. Another thing that's really important is to protect the water in general, because so many people are on well water and septic. We can't keep adding to the load. We can't let what happened in many other states that are pretty sick in the air and water quality vein. We can't let that happen here. This is a very special place. So I really support this nomination and the hard work that goes into these nominations by groups like Amigos Bravos. They are incredible asset to this state. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else in the room?
My name is Linda Wiley. That's LINDA WILIE.
Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth?
And I live in the village of Ilfeld in the Pecos River Retreat subdivision. I think it's an unincorporated subdivision, but I'm on the board of directors of a nonprofit organization called Pecos River Open Spaces. So 20 years ago, a group of landowners in a subdivision contributed funds to buy open land in this Pecos River Canyon that runs adjacent to this subdivision of 167 lots. And we dedicated this land to public use of the participants in our area between South San Isidro and San Jose. So we have 167, or we have like now 220 acres under land conservation easement managed by Pecos River Open Spaces and the Santa Fe Conservation Trust. And we have a small LLC of 18 acres along the Pecos River called a Swimming Hole Trust. And that Swimming Hole Trust is where the families who live on this 167 lots in the Pecos River Open Spaces, Pecos River Retreats, come to recreate. You know, we've maintained that access for families. There's free of charge. And I want to notice since 1983, when I purchased land along the river there, that the cleanup efforts, the remediation efforts from the Torero mine. We noticed when there were dead fish floating down the river from that remediation, that's gone. You know, when the city of Pecos improved its water quality by installing a new septic treatment plant, we've noticed now that the green foam that used to be kind of a characteristic of the river in the summer when the water warmed up, and that's gone. And so I want to say, as a private person and member of this nonprofit organization and a landholder in the Swimming Hole LLC, that the families along the river, from Pecos all the way to Villanueva, you know, we all recreate, fish, swim, our children, our grandchildren, and we've done it for generations. You know, I really appreciate that you are considering how important the headwaters of the Pecos are, not just for outside state recreators, but for all the people who live along that river and who have a historical family connection to those clean waters. You know, thank you so much for considering this, and I think the designation is really important, you know, for average people. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Wiley. Anyone else in the room? No. Anyone else on the platform? No. All right. Is there any reason not to close the evidentiary record at this time? We can turn it over to the commission for deliberations. Ms. Weatherly, do you need to make a closing statement? I feel like you made your request in your opening statement.
I did.
All right, thank you. Nothing else from anyone? Terrific. Well, thank you all very much for participating. Mr. Chair, the evidentiary record now is closed and you can take it from here.
Okay, thank you, Madam Hearing Officer, and thank you for.
Oh, I'm sorry. No, I'm sorry.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for all the parties that provided testimony and for all the public that provided support. So at this point, we have a proposal before us, and I guess my first question is: the commission ready to take action on this proposal now, or do we want further deliberation from anyone in the room, or do we want to delay the decision? Commissioner Brancard.
Mr. Chairman, I think we're about 98% on this proposal, but there seems to be two outstanding areas here. One is game and fish concern about the boy, and the segment that from up to where the fish hatchery is, parking lot of fish.
Just for clarity, it's the day use area on Forest Service land where the special trout water designation begins,
which is just above the fish hatchery, correct?
A little ways, yes, about a run.
And then the second is some of the concerns of the public about Pecos River through the national park and whether that will have any impact on the Pecos River Village of Pecos expansion of its water treatment plant. I don't know whether worth us trying to hash that out or to give the Environment Department maybe a little more time to talk to these parties and whether they can ameliorate their concerns or maybe have slightly revised proposal. Just sort of throwing that out as a possibility here.
Yes. Ms. Weatherly.
Yes, I apologize. Can you please repeat the question?
I guess the question, Ms. Weatherly, might be so bold, is whether the Environment Department would appreciate a little more time to work with the Game and Fish Department and with representatives of the Village of the Pecos about their concerns in maybe, if depending on those discussions, modify your proposal to the commission. And I'm not talking about a lot of time here. I don't see more than a few weeks or a month to work this out. We're not work it out. I don't-
If I can take a moment to confer with my
Please.
clients.
Miss Weatherly, would now be a good time to break for lunch and give you guys an opportunity to discuss this?
Chair Thompson, I think that is a wonderful idea. Yes.
So we'll do that. We will reconvene at 1:30, and we'll give the Environment Department an opportunity to talk about how they might proceed with the concerns, and perhaps Game and Fish would meet with them as well.
Thank you.
Okay, we're adjourned.
Hold on. Good afternoon. We're back after a lunch break that was a little bit longer than originally advertised based on our experience in the coffee shop downstairs. And I'm sorry there wasn't an earlier announcement that it would be an extended break. Let's see, Ms. Weatherly, I understand you have a statement or a request of the commission at this point.
Excuse me. Thank you, Madam Hearing Officer, Chair Thompson, and members of the commission. NMBD would like to move to reopen the record in this matter.
This is a request pending by the petitioner to reopen the record. Mr. Chair, I believe you will need a motion and a second and a vote.
I would entertain a motion to reopen the hearing.
So moved.
Second. Discussion? You ready to vote? Ms. Jones, would you call the roll, please?
Yes, I will. Commissioner Brankert, how do you vote?
Yes.
And Commissioner Dominguez?
Sure.
Commissioner Fry?
Yes.
I'm sorry, Commissioner Fry, did I hear your vote?
Yes.
Okay, thanks. We're all giggling. Commissioner Gilliam? Commissioner McWilliams?
Yes.
Thank you. Commissioner Paladugu?
Yes.
Commissioner Patton?
Yes.
Chair Thompson?
Yes.
Commissioner Velasquez left at 12:30. Commissioner Vigil?
Yes.
Vice Chair Zemlich?
Yes.
All right.
Sounds as though the motion is passed.
Yes.
And I understand, Ms. Weatherly, that the purpose of reopening the record is to address the comments made about things that might be able to be worked out on two matters.
Madam Hearing Officer, that is correct. And I would like to call Shelley Lemon to provide further information.
Thank you. Ms. Lemon, you're still under oath.
Thank you, Madam Hearing Officer.
Mr. Chair and Commissioners. We discussed over the lunch break Commissioner Patton's concern about the Rio Cebolla, and we are proposing to strike the NMAC proposal and replace it with the language from the special trout waters to match. So we would strike Rio Cebolla from Calaveras Creek to its headwaters and replace that with Rio Cebolla from Seven Springs Day Use Area upstream to its headwaters. In the second area concerning the Pecos wastewater treatment plant, we talked about this issue with the mayor of Pecos, and currently the designation will not impact the wastewater treatment plant or its permit conditions. Even if the wastewater treatment plant captures the septic systems as the village is intending to do, that capture is capturing pollutants that are not being processed and filtered and removed from the waste stream and taking it to the wastewater treatment plant for treatment and removal. So it's a no net loss or no net gain. I'm not sure which direction it is, but we've evaluated that process in other systems, in Ruidoso, in the Taos Ski Valley area. And when you capture those septic systems, you're removing that non-point source pollution and actually treating it to take pollutants out of the system. We think this is a net benefit to the stream. And as described, the village will not need to expand the existing wastewater treatment plant. However, in the future, if the ONRW designation goes through and the village has to expand at their wastewater treatment facility at some future point in time, the department would evaluate that and would run some modeling to ensure no further degradation of water quality. And it is upstream of the ONRW boundary, so there is some mixing and some dilution that can occur. Currently, the wastewater treatment plant has a design capacity of 0.15 million gallons per day. The critical low flow of the Pecos River is 10 million gallons per day. So it's 1% of the total flow of the Pecos River under low flow conditions, which is typically what we use to evaluate point source discharges into the stream. So with that, I will turn it over to my lawyer, Ms. Weatherly. Thank you, Ms. Lemon. Mayor Benavides from the village of Pecos is here, and I would like to call him to give. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
We need to question Ms. Lemon.
I'm
first.
so sorry.
No, it's all right. Ms. Fox, do you have a question of Ms. Lemon? Thank you. Mr. Maxwell?
I do not, Your Honor. Thank you.
All right. Let me just look to the commissioners. Commissioner Behill?
No.
Commissioner Brinker? Or Patton, anyone on this side?
No.
Oh, yes.
A real quick clarification. So if they want to expand the plant in the future so the population of Pecos grows, could you explain one more time how they would not, this designation would not affect their ability to do that? I'm not clear on that.
Correct. Mr. Chair, Commissioner, it will not prevent the expansion, but we would have to evaluate how much they're going to discharge and make sure that that pollutant loading remains the same. So it would depend on the mixing and at the boundary of the ONRW. So it would have approximately a mile to mix and potentially be taken up by the aquatic system before it reaches that boundary. but we would hold the pollutant loading the same at the baseline level. And if there were increases to the pollutant loading at that ONRW boundary, then their permit effluent limitations would be decreased to match that increase in discharge.
Okay, and I think I understand, but can you define what the loading means?
The loading is the pollutant concentration times the flow. So it's the combination of the actual concentration of the pollutant and the amount of flow that is delivering that concentration.
So the bulk amount of contaminants might increase, but because the flow is increasing, that number's unaffected, basically.
Can you restate that?
So the bulk amount of pollutants might increase if they expand the plant, but because the flow increases, I forgot how I say.
So I think I can answer this. If the flow increases, typically the concentration has to decrease in order to maintain the same load.
Right, okay, that makes sense. And then in terms of the current system, all their pollutants introduced are covered under the permit. So the permit would address any release or anything like that.
Mr. Chair and Commissioners, that's correct. Currently, there's an existing permit that allows them to discharge.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, thank you, Ms. Lemon. Is there a TMDL for that section of the Pecos River?
Mr. Chair, we're checking.
I'm looking at table 2 in the proposal, and it says the river is impaired for dissolved oxygen and temperature, but not nutrients.
Mr. Chair, that's correct.
So that's encouraging. Nor for E. coli as well. That's also encouraging. That's okay.
Mr. Chair, there are TMDLs on the Pecos River in different segments. Okay.
And again, the reason I asked the question is that TMDL is where we might experience some issues associated with loading. Typically it's nutrients, but it could be other things.
Mr. Chair, I did find that the Pecos River in this segment does have TMDLs for temperature and turbidity.
Okay, so nutrients don't appear to be a problem. Thank you.
Any other questions from the commission? No? Anything further, Ms. Weatherly of Ms. Lemon?
Nothing further.
All right. We'll bring back Mr. Benavides. Mr. Mayor, you're still under oath. Go ahead.
Thank you. Mentioned that
demonstration, Rincon Road East and West, we ran sewer and water down Highway 60 across the bridge to the other side, which is part of East Pecos. That was added by former Mayor Tony Roybal to the village. They access that area. So we are halfway to completing the sewer being hooked from those homes to the lift station to be pushed into our system. So we are asking for money this year to complete that job. That job was started as I took over office. So we do have half of it done, and we need to run the sewer to those areas. So that part of East Pecos is already going to be being hooked up. And our sewer plant, our $6 million sewer plant was built for future so that we could add the rest of East Pecos. And I was told even Road New Mexico if they could get the sewer there. So it was built with future knowledge that we could add all of East Pecos. So right now there's 700 and some residents in the village of Pecos connected to that system. And with East and Western Cone, it'd be about another 270 houses, if I'm correct, that would be added. And so we'll be able to accommodate all of that with it having to be added anything to it.
Thank you, Mayor Benavides, and thank you for staying to come back to provide further comment.
Well, I was told one time, if you attend, you do something good. So that's the reason I'm here. It's told to me by an old person. When you show up, it matters and you do something. So that's the reason.
Thank you so much. And just to clarify, after the conversation you had with the Surface Water Quality Bureau during the lunch hour, would you say that the Village of Pecos supports the ONRW?
Yes, we do.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Is there anyone with a question of Mayor Benavides? All right. Thank you very much. Is there any reason not to close the record again at this point? Any reason at all? Oh, all right. Thank you all very much, Mr. Chair. The gavel is yours.
I want a gavel. Thank you very much. And it sounds like we made a lot of progress during that break, and I very much appreciate your getting together and working out the problems. So as I understand it now, we've got the same proposal that's Exhibit 4, but we'll change it to reflect the reach of the Rio Cebolla to be consistent with Game and Fish's language. Is that correct? I see heads nodding, so that works for me. So at this point, I'd ask the commission, how do you want to proceed? Are we ready to vote on this, or do you want to discuss it some more? Commissioner Brancard.
Mr. Chairman, I don't want to cut off discussion, but I'd be willing to make a motion.
Let's hear it.
All right. In the matter of WQCC 24-46, petition to nominate surface waters designated as outstanding national resource waters, I move that we approve the petition submitted by New Mexico Environment Department with the change provided by the department this afternoon.
I second.
Good. Further discussion? We ready to vote? Okay, Ms. Jones, if you call the roll.
Yes, I just want to confirm who seconded that motion. Okay, thank you. Commissioner Branker, do you vote?
Yes.
Commissioner Dominguez?
Yes.
Commissioner Fry?
Yes.
Commissioner Gilliam?
Yes.
Commissioner McWilliams?
Yes.
Commissioner Paladugu?
Yes.
Commissioner Patton?
Yes.
Chair Thompson?
Yes.
Commissioner Vigil?
Yes.
Vice Chair Zemlik.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Great. Thank you. Thank you all. Thank you for everybody's work, and thank you to the commission for your comments. They were very helpful. Okay, I think we're pretty well done with the agenda. I think the next issue is old business. Is there any old business? Commissioner Brancard.
Mr. Chairman, the next agenda item is next meeting date and upcoming matters. And of course, I will raise the question about what the schedule is for deliberation on the proposed rule changes for water reuse.
So, Commissioner Brancard, the post-hearing submittals, you probably know this, I'll say it for the rest of the room. The post-hearing submittals in the water reuse rulemaking were received Friday afternoon. They are, Pam has already posted them on the docketed matters page, so you can see them all. They are extensive. And the one thing I can't yet offer would be any kind of reliable, estimate. For example, I can offer it tomorrow or the next day, but not sitting here right this second. How long it would take me to do a report. Having said that, it's my understanding the commission doesn't want to meet during the session. There's no way to do a report and have you guys deliberate before the session at this point. That's, a little more than 30 days from now. My memory is the session runs January 17th to March 22nd. Is that true? Yeah. Okay. So, if that determination not to meet during the session for that deliberation holds, I think the earliest you could deliberate would be March 24th or the week of March 24th. If it's important to deliberate before then, you all need to discuss amongst yourselves if you want to do that during the session.
Okay, so our March meeting would be before that. March 24th would be a special meeting. Do we want to do that? Do we want to have a special meeting to consider the water reuse rule, or do we want to postpone it to April or May? We do have a pretty busy schedule next spring with a hearing in January, and I think there's some other issues that are coming up that may be timely. Hearing none, let's put it off until April. Is that okay with everyone? Okay. Yes, the comment was May sounds good, but let's not put it off longer than we need to. And I'd like to say, I don't think we need the court reporter services for this. Is that correct?
For the water reuse rule, I think typically for this scheduling discussion. Oh, I'm very sorry. Thank you very much.
You can delete the last 5 minutes.
Yeah. I'm sorry about that.
We're done. Thank you. Okay, so we'll do that. And then I'll work with the hearing officer and see if we, if we need to change it even later than that.
That's right.
Okay.
Yeah.
So with that, there was one announcement I wanted to make. I think I sent a note to everybody. The Commissioner Brancard, myself, and Secretary Kenny of the Environment Department appeared before the Sunset Subcommittee of the Legislative Finance Council 3 weeks ago and the commission has set the sunset, I guess, this year. And they gave us, the subcommittee recommended to the full committee that we be extended for 6 more years. So I will see you guys next year for sure. With that, I think our next meeting will be the 2nd.
Our next meeting is January 14th. And that is the hearing, the Triad hearing.
Yes. Okay. Any further comments? Commissioner Dominguez.
Just one final one, Mr. Chair. So speaking of the January WQCC meeting, that particular meeting will be my last meeting on the commission. I'm going to prove Shelley Lemon wrong, and I am going to retire. So, thank you, Mr. Chair.
Is that revocable?
No, we need a motion.
There's no other announcements. I'd entertain a motion to adjourn. Commissioner Brian Carr.
Well, I just want to thank everybody who showed up for today's hearing in person, on the screen, people who talked, and all the many, many people who sent in written comments. Thank you to everyone taking interest in these matters.
Thank you. 1,145 comments. Thank you. All right, we're adjourned. Good job, Nate.